Chapter 764. 10th Street, number 9. Like all the previous recipients, it was an ordinary two-story house with a deserted front yard. There was no mailbox in front of the door. After parking his bicycle, Fong Bujue carried his backpack and held his shotgun. He quickly stepped onto the porch in front of the house. Bang, bang, bang. Open the door, he shouted as he knocked on the door. I don't need to tell you what happened next. Not long after, a fat man wearing slippers came down from the second floor. He opened the door a crack and stood in the shadows. He asked, "Who are you looking for?" "The postman." Fong Bujue raised his temporary work ID and waved it in front of the fat man. He then put away the ID and took out an envelope. "I'm here to deliver a letter. I won't accept it." The fat man's reaction was the same as the previous 9. Click. Fong Bujue took the opportunity to raise his shotgun and put the muzzle through the crack. He said in a deep voice, "Are you going to accept it or not? What are you going to do?" Although the fat man showed fear, he didn't run away. "Do you want the letter or the bullet? You choose." Fong Bujue's tone didn't sound like he was joking at all. When necessary, he could be very ruthless. "No, don't kill me." The fat man raised his hands and surrendered. "Even if you shoot, I won't accept it unless I give you your command code," Fong Bujue said, picking up where the man left off. "Okay." The fat man nodded. "TSK." Brother Ju snorted and thought to himself, "Threatening with force doesn't work." 2 seconds later, he put down the gun and said, "How many digits is your command code?" 11. The fat man answered truthfully. After getting the answer, Fong Bujue turned around and ran to his bicycle. In the next 40 minutes, Brother Ju visited the 11th, 12th, and 13th recipients. The last 3, without exception, were all fatties. Their voices, personalities, reactions, and so on were all the same as the first 10 recipients. Fong Bujue didn't want to waste any more time with these guys. He had already probed them as much as he could, so other than the number of digits in the command code, he didn't ask anything else. At 2:50 p.m., Brother Ju once again came to the abandoned mailbox in the cemetery. At this moment, there was an envelope on the ground next to the mailbox. Although there was no wind, there was still a rock on top of the envelope. He really wrote back. Fong Bujue mumbled to himself as he walked over to pick up the letter. It was an earthen yellow envelope. Holding it in his hand, he could feel that there was only a thin piece of paper inside. Brother Ju carefully tore it open and took out the letter inside. Then, he found something very puzzling. Both sides of the letter were blank. Again, Fong Bujue couldn't help but complain. Invisible ink? The wordless heavenly book? His complaint was the same as when he received the newspaper. As he spoke, he took the letter in front of his eyes and carefully examined it to make sure that there were no traces or scents on the paper. What does this mean? Fong Bujue muttered to himself. He subconsciously held his right elbow with his left hand, and the index and middle fingers of his right hand were slightly together. He traced his forehead and the tip of his nose. This habitual thinking action allowed his mind to work more smoothly. If this piece of paper simply fell next to the mailbox, it might be misunderstood as a discarded piece of paper. But right now, this piece of paper is in an envelope, and it is pressed down by a rock. This setting tells me that this piece of paper is indeed a reply. After thinking for a while, he suddenly had an idea. Could it be? The next second, Brother Ju took out the newspaper from his satchel and flipped to the blank pages, an indirect hint. Thinking of this, he simply sat on the ground, holding the letter in one hand and the newspaper in the other. He muttered, "This reply does indeed have no content, but the no content part can also be a hint." His gaze moved to the newspaper. "It's hinting to me. The answer is in a seemingly blank space." With this in mind, Fong Bujue tore off the first page of the newspaper. The front of the page was the meaningless headline, and the back of the page was the second page with no text, only a picture. The picture on the second page was a picture of a brick wall, and in front of the wall stood a tree. At first glance, it looked like a picture of a landscape, but upon closer inspection, there were bicycle tracks on the ground at the bottom of the picture. Okay, let me take a look. The paper quality of this newspaper is normal, so it's impossible for it to show fire or water. Feng Bujue held the experiment in his hand and pondered. The only thing I can try now is... As he thought about it, his hand reached for the shotgun, but 1 second later, he pulled his hand back. Wait a minute. If the item needed to solve the riddle is the gunpowder and the bullet, then Brother Spectre should have given me the riddle after I got the shotgun. He scratched his chin. In other words, the item needed to make the hint appear was already with me at the time. Then, like a child in a science class, Brother Ju showed great interest. He took out a bunch of props from his pocket and arranged them in a row on the grass. Let's do this one by one. Then, he raised the first prop. In the next 5 minutes, he first tried to read the content of the newspaper through the camera on his phone. Then, he used a pen and a pencil to draw a small area on the paper. Then, he used a coin, a key, and a credit card to scratch a few areas on the newspaper. Unfortunately, all these attempts ended in failure. This is not right either. I have to change my approach. He picked up the salt flask and muttered. This was the last item that he had that could be used to solve the riddle. Thankfully, this last attempt worked. When the white salt was sprinkled on the newspaper, plumes of white smoke rose from the paper, and there was a slight burnt smell in the smoke. This was obviously not the reaction of paper when it came into contact with salt. 14. 52, 7, 66, tree trunk. A few seconds later, a line of smoky words appeared on the blank page next to the illustration. Got it. Feng Bujue's smile appeared at the same time as the words on the newspaper appeared. He did not expect that the key to solving the riddle would be the salt flask found on the felt hat bro. After the experiment was successful, the next step was simple. Brother Ju followed the instructions and deciphered the other 12 pages in the middle of the newspaper. In total, he obtained 13 similar messages. If I'm not mistaken, the first 2 numbers are the coordinates. After Feng Bujue memorized all the hints, his expression relaxed. Since it's down to 2 decimal places, it's probably to match the mini-map that I have with me. And the nouns that follow each coordinate undoubtedly have to be combined with the illustration. At this moment, Brother Ju roughly understood the meaning of these hints. Coincidentally, the coordinates on the second page were the ones that were closest to him. Therefore, in order to verify his conjecture, he quickly packed up his things, returned to the bicycle, and headed there. In less than 5 minutes, Feng Bujue arrived at the coordinates of 14, 52, 7, 66 on the mini-map. Due to the size of the map, he could not stand on a specific spot. At most, he could only get close to it. He looked around and saw the brick wall in the illustration and the big tree planted in front of the wall. A tree trunk. Feng Bujue parked the bicycle and walked over with the shotgun. He cautiously approached the target step by step, as if the tree would suddenly turn into a monster and attack him. However, the result proved that he was overthinking. The tree in front of him was just a normal tree. There were no flags or events in this location. The only valuable thing, there was an Arabic number engraved on the tree trunk. 1. Chapter 765. I see. The moment he saw the number, the pieces of information in Feng Bujue's mind instantly twisted together to form a complete chain of clues. 13 pictures, 13 coordinates, 13 nouns that point to a certain place. Just enough to lead me to the 13 command codes. As he said this, he had already turned around and walked towards the bicycle. Because only the Phantom Postman knows everyone's command codes, so in every illustration, I can find the tire prints he left behind when he passed by. Brother Ju kicked up the bicycle's support frame and climbed onto the seat. Although the inference itself is valid, I can't rule out the possibility of coincidence or special cases. To be on the safe side, I should follow the order of the newspaper's page and step on every coordinate. He had considered this thoroughly. After all, he had only confirmed 1 clue so far, so he couldn't just jump to conclusions. He had to go to at least 3 places, find 3 suspected command codes, and match them with the recipients one by one to be completely sure that his inference was correct. To cut the long story short, 20 minutes later, Feng Bujue arrived at the 3rd page of the newspaper, the place where the second picture was recorded. Following the coordinates and the nouns, he found the number 16 at the bottom of a trash can. This was the command code of number 2. Then, without stopping, he went to the location of the third illustration, a farm west of the town. On a fence by the farm, he found 3 painted numbers, 219. After receiving this 3-digit number, he naturally went straight to the residence of the fat man number 3 and knocked on the door of the recipient's room. This time, Brother Jude didn't waste any time. When the person answered the door, he said, "Command code 219, take the letter for me." In the end, number 3 really did take the letter. At this point, Fong Bujua's inference was basically confirmed. What he needed to do next was no longer difficult. He just needed to design the most time-saving and efficient route in his mind. Then follow this route to explore the 10 locations where the command codes were recorded, and let the remaining 10 fat men accept the letter. Then, the side mission would be considered completed. Although the final completion time was a little longer than he initially expected, he should be able to finish it before 8 o'clock in the evening. There were still 4 hours before the mission requirement of before midnight, which was more than enough time. At that time, Brother Jude did plan this way. However, his plan changed not long after. In the afternoon, 4:15, Brother Jude, who had explored 5 coordinates according to the established route, suddenly stopped. F***CK. I'm stupid. He stopped in the middle of the road and cursed to himself. Such an obvious pattern. I should have noticed it earlier. He didn't know what he was thinking, but he immediately turned the bicycle around and headed towards the nearest recipient's address. 10 minutes later, Fong Bujue arrived at number 13's porch. The command code of this recipient was a 14-digit number, and Brother Ju hadn't checked the coordinates of the code, but he still knocked on the door firmly. "You again." After number 13 opened the door, he stared at Brother Ju through the crack of the door and said, "I told you, without the command code, I won't." "Wait a second." Fong Buju interrupted him, took out his phone, and tapped on it for a while. About 5 seconds later, he handed over the 13th letter with his other hand and quickly said, 302-875-1106-59225. After he finished speaking, the fat man was stunned for 2 seconds, which made Fong Bujua quite nervous. Fortunately, after 2 seconds, number 13 obediently took the letter and said gloomily, "Damn it, Humph. Perfect." Fong Bujua smiled. At that moment, he had completely deciphered the pattern of the codes on the 13 fat men. Without checking the coordinates given by the newspaper, he could name all 13 codes. Furthermore, using this pattern, he knew that there was an anomaly among the 13 fat men. Evening, 6:30 p.m. Fong Bujue rode his bicycle to the door of a motel on the western side of town. By then, his side mission, send out all the letters before midnight, had been completed. This was because he didn't go to any of the coordinates given by the newspaper to look for the codes. Instead, he ran to all the addresses of the remaining recipients and gave them the command codes of the fat men so that they could accept the letters. And the effect of completing the side quest ahead of time was, when Brother Ju sent out the last letter, he received 3 new quests consecutively. Investigate and solve the reason why Enoch was late. Try to join the Last Supper. Decipher the scenario's worldview before the main mission is completed. These 3 missions were all classified as hidden missions. Of course, for Fong Bujue, this was not a bad thing. In fact, this kind of development was exactly what he wanted. According to the map, this is the only motel in town. If Enoch, Brother Ju deduced that Enoch was the name of the man in the felt hat, is an outsider like me, and he arrived yesterday, there is a high probability that he spent the night here. Brother Ju thought to himself as he walked to the entrance of the motel. But I can't rule out the possibility that he has relatives in town or that he hooked up with a girl in the bar last night. While he was thinking, he pushed open the door of the motel. Humph! It's open, isn't it? The moment Fong Bujue opened the door, he knew that he had come to the right place. Although Otaku Town was huge, there were only a few buildings that players could enter. It was rare to come across a place that could be entered, so it must be something special. A few seconds later, Fong Bujue walked through a short corridor and came to a counter. "Is anyone here?" Since there was no bell on the counter, Brother Ju could only rely on his voice to call for help. "If there's no one here, I'll help myself." He waited for a moment, and when no one responded, he shouted again. But the result was the same. There was no one here. Very good. Feng Bujue smiled, walked to the counter, lifted the counter, and walked in. The first thing he did was to flip through the thick register on the table and find the name Enoch. There seems to be quite a lot of people staying here. As Brother Ju flipped through the register, he was surprised to find that there were quite a lot of names on the register. According to the register, 70% of the rooms in the motel were occupied. Most of the people staying in the motel are from outside the town. Feng Bujue said thoughtfully, I could try to communicate with them later and see if I can get any information. He quickly memorized some room numbers and the names of the occupants. Then he turned around and took out the key to room 204 that Enoch had checked in from the key cabinet behind the counter. Humming a tune, he went up to the second floor. Small motels like this usually did not have elevators. Feng Bujue walked up the stairs and walked down a corridor that was covered in red carpet. It was dimly lit, and he soon found room 204. He stood in front of the door and pondered for 2 seconds. Then he inserted the key, opened the door, quickly raised a shotgun, and aimed at every angle in the room. After confirming that there was no obvious threat in his line of sight, he quickly stepped into the house and imitated the actions and order of the police searching the house in the police movies. He searched the back of the door, under the bed, in the bathroom, and all the other corners and blind spots. Throughout the whole process, he did not speak, and even his footsteps were very low. It was quiet, fast, and accurate. Unfortunately, in a single-player Nightmare Instance dungeon, there weren't many small monsters. His professional clearing process was just a waste of his emotions. After circling the room, Brother Ju went back to the door, closed it, and let out a long sigh. Okay. He put the shotgun on the cabinet next to the door and looked at the empty room. I can officially search now. Chapter 766. Feng Bujue spent half an hour inspecting room 204 in detail. Then he sat on the bed and fell into deep contemplation. The wardrobe is empty, and there are no coats or pants in the suitcase. Only a limited amount of underwear and socks. This means that he didn't plan to stay out too long. Regardless of whether the interview was successful or not, he would have returned home before tomorrow. Brother Ju quickly recalled all the information he had just collected. Although he went to the bar last night, considering that he had an interview early in the morning, he wouldn't have drunk too much or stayed out too late. His complexion before he died can also prove this point. At least in the few seconds before his head was blown off, he looked quite energetic, without any hangover or lack of sleep. He glanced at the bedsheet again. Judging from the hair and smell left on the bed, he did spend the night in room 204. And this morning, he even washed up leisurely and shaved before leaving the house. Thinking of this, Feng Bujue frowned slightly. He rubbed his chin and said, All the signs indicate that Enoch was very calm until he left the hotel room in the morning. He didn't seem to be in a hurry at all. He paused for a moment. Then the question is, after he left the hotel and before he entered the post office, what happened? At this moment, all the clues he had collected so far flashed in front of Brother Ju's eyes. His mind reacted instinctively, giving him one inference after another. He unfolded each inference one by one, weaving a deductive spider web. Speaking of which, where's his car? A moment later, Feng Bujue touched something at the edge of the spider web. His eyes moved slightly, and he thought, I've been in town for so long, and not only have I not seen any pedestrians, but I haven't even seen a single car. He stood up and paced back and forth in the room. This Enoch brother, he couldn't have walked all the way to this remote town with a suitcase, right? Brother Ju thought as he walked to the door of the room. He planned to visit the other guests in the hotel with the shotgun and ask them what they knew. However, just as he picked up his gun and was about to touch the doorknob, he heard the sound of a key entering the lock. Feng Bujue reacted quickly. He immediately took 3 steps back and raised his gun to aim. Almost at the same time, the door was pushed open. If I were you, I wouldn't waste my time in this hotel. The person outside the door was still calm after seeing Brother Ju with a gun. Mr. Dave. Feng Bujue took a closer look. Standing in the corridor was a balding, slightly plump old black man. The The man looked to be in his 60s. He was dressed in a dark green administrator uniform and had a bunch of keys on his waist. "Who are you?" Fong Bujue pointed his gun at the other party and asked coldly, "How do you know my name?" "I'm the administrator here. You can call me Mr. M. As for your name, I've known it for a long time. I've known you for as long as you can remember." "Oh, you're my relative?" Fong Bujue responded. "I know you better than your relatives, Dave," Mr. M replied. "I know that you wet your bed when you were in 3rd grade. I know that you're allergic to lettuce. I know that your best childhood playmate died of a drug overdose. I also know the names of all your girlfriends." "What's going on, distant relative? Stalker? What nonsense." Although Brother Jew had many guesses in his mind, his own understanding of Dave was limited. Even if the other party was talking nonsense, he had no way of knowing. "It seems that you know a lot." Fong Bujue remained calm and threw out a tentative question. "Then can you please tell me?" "Enoch, actually, you don't have to worry about the car." Before Brother Jew finished, Mr. M cut in. "You'll understand if you think about it," he said darkly. "Your own car counts as entering the small town?" Hearing this, Fong Bujue's expression changed slightly. "I see." He realized that not only were there no cars or pedestrians in this town, but there were also no tire tracks or footprints. After walking around the town for a day, all he saw were his own footprints and tire tracks. "Thank you for your reminder, Mr. M." 2 seconds later, Brother Jew continued, "If it's convenient, can you explain why you already know what I want to ask you before I even say it?" "Ha ha ha." Mr. M returned a meaningful smile, then ignored Brother Jew's question and said, "The Last Supper will begin at 8 o'clock. You have less than an hour to attend the banquet." After that, he turned and walked down the corridor. "Wait." Fong Bujue quickly walked forward, wanting to stop him and ask for an explanation. But when he reached the door, there was no one in the corridor. Mr. M left his sight for less than a second, but it was in this second that Brother Jew lost track of him. Because of Mr. M's appearance, Brother Jew changed his original plan of knocking on the door and asking questions to a more direct and faster method. He went straight to the counter on the 1st floor, took out all the keys in the key cabinet, and opened all the doors in the hotel room one by one. Although he was prepared to raise his gun every time he entered the room, there was no one in the room. Fong Bujue wasted another 10 minutes in the hotel, but he still found nothing. At 7:22 p.m., he walked out of the hotel door and got on his bicycle again. "Mother asterisk cur." He cursed as he pedaled, telling me the time limit for dinner, but not the location. What's the use of that? This was not the only problem that annoyed him. At the moment, he had another worry, and that was his stamina points. 692 for 800 might have been enough in a normal scenario, but in a scenario like this where physical strength was measured by physical strength, it was a state where his muscles ached and needed rest. Unfortunately, the situation before him did not allow Fong Bujue to rest. Brother Jew had a feeling that, at this stage of the scenario, he was very close to completing it perfectly. Even though he was now 100% sure at this point, he could use God mode to explain. Actually, the most important hidden index in this scenario was time, or rather, action efficiency. Arrive at Narson's office before 9 a.m. was a good example. The scenario where Enoch's head was blown up and the punctuality that was emphasized in the post office manual were both hints. The main mission, obtain the approval of the Spectre postman and become the new postman of Ortaka town, was ambiguous. It was not a clear instruction. The real factor that decided the difficulty of the scenario was time. At the start of the scenario, if the player did not meet Narson before 9 a.m., the difficulty of the scenario would increase and the content of the side mission would change. The chain reaction would be the time taken to complete the side mission would increase, and the time taken to complete the side mission would be the benchmark for triggering the hidden mission. If the player completed it 1 hour earlier, they would receive Solve the Scenario's Worldview before completing the main mission. If the player completed it 3 hours earlier, they would receive Investigate and solve the reason why Enoch was late. If they wanted to receive Try to join the Last Supper, they had to complete it 5 hours earlier. In other words, The difficulty and ending of the scenario were closely related to the player's action efficiency. The faster they completed this step, the easier the next step would be. On the other hand, if they were late one step, they would be late all the time. If they did not correct their mistake as soon as possible, the later part of the scenario would snowball. Even if the player was lucky enough to survive, at most, they would only be able to complete the mission before midnight. Now, Fong Bujue had used his outstanding performance to walk on time, on the easiest and most profitable route to clear the scenario. But there was still a chance that he would fail. 38 minutes, less than 700 stamina points, broken clues. To complete the scenario perfectly, he had to overcome these factors and arrive at the banquet within the time limit. Chapter 767. The night was getting darker. It was 7:28 in the morning, and the fog was still thick. The only difference was that the street lamps were all lit up. The damp air caused Fong Bujue's face and hands to go numb from the cold. He had no choice but to increase the speed of his pedaling to maintain the warmth in his body. Although he did not know where the Last Supper was, he thought of a place to go. It was the post office on the north side of the town square. Firstly, he could report to Nelson there. Secondly, Nelson was the only NPC who could communicate with him normally and provide him with some help. He could not go back to Sagittarius and Yang, and it was too late to write a letter to the Phantom Postman. As for Mr. M and the woman with the ethereal voice, they were both elusive. He could not find them. Thirdly, there were not many roads in the town. Unless he deliberately took a detour, there was only one route from the hotel to the post office. Therefore, Enoch must have taken this route this morning. If he followed the same route, he might be able to find out what happened to him. The visibility is getting lower and lower at night. Brother Jew continued to move forward with the help of the street lamps. I suddenly feel that the empty streets are not so bad. At least I don't have to worry about bumping into something. F***CK. There were many things that could not be repeated. As the saying goes, whatever you say will happen. Just as Fong Bujue was sighing, a rectangular shadow suddenly appeared in the fog before him. It was standing in the middle of the road. In the next second, the front of the bicycle collided with the object with a loud clang. Brother Jew flew out of his seat. What the F***CK? When they flew through the air, Fong Bujue even dragged out a curse. His voice was filled with frustration. Before he could finish cursing, he fell to the ground. It was a heavy fall. Brother Jew was stunned for a full 30 seconds after he landed on the ground. He roughly checked his body. His right arm was fractured, his ribs were cracked, and there were contusions and bruises all over his body. The only thing he could be thankful for was the fact that the road was mostly made of mud and there were no rocks on the road. If he had fallen on a gravel road or a concrete road, his injuries would have been worse. He might not even be able to get up. Tui. Fong Bujue spat out a mouthful of blood. His lips were broken. He sat up and looked back. He quickly recognized the object that he had hit. It was a hot dog stand. It's quite dangerous to stop in the middle of the road. Fong Bujue could not help but shout at the stand. Brother Jew did not know if it was the system's arrangement or a pure coincidence. He had been running back and forth in the town today, but he had not passed by this place. If he had passed by here during the day, he would not have hit. The visibility at that time was much better, and he was not as fast as he was now. Wait a minute. This doesn't look like a cart. After a few seconds, Fong Bujue could see more clearly. He noticed that the hot dog stand did not have wheels at the bottom. Instead, it had 4 metal brackets inserted into the ground. No wonder. I flew so far, but the stand didn't even shake. So it's fixed to the ground. Due to time constraints and limited resources, Fong Bujue only sat on the ground for a minute before he stood up again. His pain tolerance was already very high. This level of injury was not enough to hinder his movement. After he got up, he used his left hand to carry his satchel again. He picked up the shotgun that he had dropped not far away and walked towards a hot dog stand. The stand had bread, sausages, and all kinds of seasonings and sauces needed to make hot dogs. However, there was no stand owner. Fong Bujue did not hesitate. He placed the shotgun on the table and used his left hand to grab the bread and sausages and stuff them into his mouth. After he stuffed a lump of food into his mouth, he still used his left hand to pick up the mustard, ketchup, and sweet and spicy sauce bottles and poured a little of each into his mouth. His way of eating was not so much intrepid. It was more disgusting. Of course, his tolerance for disgusting things was obvious to all. Examples like spoiled sandwiches and feces swamps will not be repeated here. After eating 2 hot dogs, Brother Jew glanced at his status bar and grumbled with dissatisfaction. Tizke, so little life points have been recovered. After the fall, his life points had dropped below 30%. Even after eating the hot dog, his life points only returned to 33%. This was definitely a loss. However, the hot dog had helped him recover almost 500 stamina points, so the fall was not for nothing. Huh, what is this? Just as Brother Jew was about to take the shotgun and leave, he accidentally caught a glimpse of something stuck at the edge of the hot dog stand. After picking up the item, he immediately let out a hollow laugh. Item name: Enoch's Wisdom Tooth. Item type: plot. Item quality: trash. Function: unknown. Can be taken out of the scenario. No remark. The owner of this tooth was an extremely stingy person. One morning, he added too much mustard when he was eating a hot dog, and he lost his tooth because of the spiciness. He immediately asked the hot dog stand owner to compensate for his loss, but he was rejected and ridiculed by the stand owner. In a fit of anger, he silently stole a bottle of salt from the stand. What kind of idiot is this? Brother Jew cursed after reading the item description. At the same time, the system audio appeared in his ears. Hidden quest completed. Phone Buju opened the quest tab, and the quest to investigate and solve the reason why Enoch was late was ticked off just like that. Hey, Brother Jew's lips twitched, and he complained to himself. How can this be? The reason he was late was because he was an idiot? Even though he complained, he knew the reason Enoch was late was because he had gotten into an argument with the hot dog stand owner after losing his tooth. Oh well, no matter what, the quest is completed. Phone Bujue said as he tossed the tooth away and walked around the hot dog stand. If the other 2 quests are as easy as this, then it'll be so easy. Obviously, he was overthinking things. This hidden quest was obviously the easiest of the 3. He only needed to find the related item, read the remark, and understand the meaning of the remark to complete the quest. But the next 2 quests would not be so easy. After leaving the hot dog stand, it took another 15 minutes for Phone Bujue, who was gasping for air, to reach the entrance of the post office. By then, it was already 7:46 a.m., and there were only 14 minutes left until 8 a.m. Because the front wheel of the bicycle was out of shape, Brother Jew had to abandon the bike and run all the way here. It was not easy for him. Aside from his fractured right hand, he had to bear the pain from his ribs and the swelling all over his body while running. He also had to carry a heavy shotgun in his left hand. To be able to get there in 15 minutes was already very fast. There's not much time left. Brother Jew looked at his watch as he entered the post office. I hope the Last Supper is not far from here. He rushed up to the 2nd floor and went straight to the director's office. Knock, knock, knock. At 7:47 a.m., Brother Jew knocked on the door for the 2nd time today. Please come in, Director Nelson responded immediately. Before he finished, Phone Bujue pushed the door open and went straight to the director's desk. Director, I've delivered all the letters. I know, Nelson replied. I'm very satisfied with your performance. I'd like to ask you a question. Phone Bujue did not respond to the director's praise. Instead, he quickly asked, Do you know where the Last Supper is held? At this point, he did not have the time to beat around the bush with this NPC. He just asked whatever he wanted to ask. After all, if the NPC knew the answer, he would definitely understand the question. Oh, that. Nelson's expression and tone did not change much. What's wrong? Do you want to join? Yes, Phone Bujue replied in a very confident tone. If that's the case, Nelson said as he stood up from his chair. Then come with us. Suddenly, someone took over Narson's words and said the second half of his sentence. Phone Bujue heard this and turned around. He saw that there was an extra person at the door of the office. It was a woman in a white dress. She had long hair, and her face was blurry. Her voice was very unique. Even if one listened to it from a close distance, it gave off a distant and ethereal feeling. Chapter 768. The woman's words were like a curse. Before she finished her sentence, the space around her began to distort and gradually expand. For a moment, Fong Bujua's vision was like paint on a palette. Only the woman and Narsen's figures remained clear. Looks like I came to the right place. Faced with this sudden change, Brother Bujua did not panic at all. He just stood there with his gun and watched. Just like that, a minute passed. The distorted space stopped spreading and stabilized again. At this time, Narsen's office had disappeared and was replaced by a spacious and magnificent hall. The four walls of the hall were pure white. The walls were carved neatly, and there were large oil paintings and curtains hanging in the empty spaces. The marble floor was hard and smooth. On the 5-meter-high ceiling, there was a huge crystal chandelier. "Mr. Dave," Narsen's voice soon sounded again. "Welcome to the Last Supper." As he spoke, he raised his arm and gestured to the side of the hall. There was a long table covered with a white tablecloth and filled with food. On one side of the long table, there were 13 chairs. At this moment, 13 people were sitting on the 13 chairs. What's going on?" Under the light, Fong Bujua finally saw the faces of the 13 fat men. What are you?" There were two reasons why he asked this question. First, the 13 fat men looked exactly the same. Second, the faces of these fat men were the fat version of Dave. "You should know what they are," the mysterious woman replied. "I don't know." Fong Bujua looked at her and replied loudly. "No, you know." Narsen on the other side said again. "Huh." Fong Bujua sneered and pointed the gun at the mysterious woman. "You?" He then pointed at Narsen. "And you, Mr. Director, I don't care what you think, but I can clearly say that I am very confused by what is happening in front of me. If you two know, I hope you can answer my doubts." "That's impossible," Nelson replied in a serious and firm tone. "Only you can answer all of this. What we can tell you only exists in the level of nothingness. Once you've seen through reality, you'll naturally understand the meaning of nothingness." "Then how can I see through the truth you speak of?" Fong Bujua asked. "Very simple. Open your eyes." At this moment, another voice suddenly came from the corner of the hall, answering his question. Brother Ju turned to the source of the voice and saw Mr. M in the direction of the voice. "Oh, you're here too." Fong Bujua squinted his eyes and said, "According to the situation, are the two people in the bar also?" "Yes, we're here too." The Sagittarius interrupted Brother Ju and appeared in the hall with Yang Yi. The way these guys appeared was like teleportation. Brother Ju only needed to turn his face slightly, and they appeared in his blind spot. "Okay, let me think about it." Fong Bujua shrugged. "If the lady is not wrong, then the few of you." As he spoke, he glanced at the dining table. "And the 13 of them, they are all derivatives on the level of nothingness?" "Yes and no," the mysterious woman replied. "Your question can't be answered with a simple yes or no," Nelson said. "In fact, we can't answer you," Mr. M said. "There's only one person who knows all the answers." Yang Yi said, "That is yourself." The Sagittarius pointed at Brother Ju. The 5 of them spoke together, but Brother Ju still didn't get a clear answer to his question. "Okay, I've had enough." Fong Bujua put down the gun and showed an impatient expression. "Is there anyone here who can speak human language? Do you dare to say something less ambiguous? Or give me some substantial help? The only person who can help you." At this moment, another voice sounded. "Only you." This voice was exactly the same as Dave's own voice. Fong Bujua turned his head after hearing the voice and saw another Dave. That Dave was wearing a formal postman uniform and carrying a satchel. His face was very pale, but his eyes were bright. "Ghost postman." Fong Bujua looked at him for 2 seconds and asked in a deep voice. "Yes," the ghost postman replied. "Of course. You can also call me Dave." "Huh?" Fong Bujua laughed twice and then asked, "Can you help me?" "Dave." "No, because you broke my bike," Dave replied. "I broke my bike." Fong Bujua continued. "Yes, it's my bike," Dave emphasized again. F***ck. Brother Jew couldn't refute this absurd answer, so he could only say F*** Mr. Dave. Nelson also interrupted at this time. You should have read the work manual. Break the bike at your own risk. Oh, so that's what it means. Fong Bujua muttered. He immediately understood. Breaking the bike was a flag. If he didn't trigger it, he could get help from the ghost postman. Unfortunately, it was too late to know now. Then, what should I do now? Fong Bujua said. What do I need to do to see the truth? The next second, the 6 people around him replied in unison, Open your eyes. Fine, I'll open them. Fong Bujua shook his head and smiled bitterly. He didn't know a way to open his eyes, and the method wasn't complicated. However, the last time he used it, the mysterious woman suddenly appeared and told him. This method would bring irreversible effects. Everyone, Fong Bujua took out the Nokia 3310 from his pocket, held it in his left hand, and raised it high. I'll be back soon. After that, he knelt on one knee and waved his arm toward the ground. The bottom half of the phone was like a protruding knife handle, and he slammed it heavily on the marble floor. 2 seconds later, with a loud bang, the marble floor cracked. Almost at the same time, an indescribable, intense pain exploded in Brother Jew's head. Before the pain could fully spread, Fong Bujua's vision turned black, and he lost the perception of his body. Chapter 769, December 25th, 2102. May, in a certain small town. Early in the morning, a 9-year-old boy woke up from his dream and stretched his body. He rubbed his eyes and looked at the alarm clock beside his bed. He then jumped out of bed and ran downstairs in his pajamas. Wow! A minute later, the little boy's cheerful shout echoed in the living room. Mom, Mom. A few minutes later, he cheerfully ran upstairs and ran into his mother's room. He jumped on the bed and excitedly said, Look, what did Santa Claus give me? The mother on the bed had a smile on her face as she replied sleepily, Looks like you're a postman now, my little candy. The little boy grinned and adjusted the postman hat on his head before saluting his mother. I'm willing to serve you. The mother reached out and pinched the child's cheeks. Well, Mr. Postman, quickly go back to your room and put on your clothes. Be careful not to catch a cold. Yes, Mom. The little boy answered loudly and skipped out. Looking at the back of the child leaving, a warm smile appeared on the mother's face. But a few seconds later, she seemed to remember something, and her expression suddenly became a bit gloomy. Her line of sight instinctively turned to the bedside table. There was a picture frame on the table. The picture in the frame wasn't too old. In the picture was a family of 3. A handsome father, a beautiful mother, and a cute little boy. Mom, when is Dad coming home? 2 years ago at Christmas, the little boy asked his mother, but his mother only hugged him and wept, unable to say a single word. On Christmas Eve that year, after the little boy's father got off work from the post office, he rode his bicycle and directly rushed to the shopping center to buy a toy for his child. But on the way back, a car accident took his life. From then on, only the mother and son were left in the family. They depended on each other for survival. Put on your hat. Yes, just like that. At 8:30 in the morning, after confirming that her son was properly dressed, the mother took the little boy's hand and left the house with him. Hi, Mr. Marvin, good morning. Merry Christmas, Mrs. Dave. Hey, look, whose little postman is this? Their neighbors were an elderly black couple who would greet each other whenever they saw each other. Hello, Mr. Field. Oh, hello, Mrs. Dave. Another neighbor, Field, was a fat man. Everyone in the neighborhood knew that he was a single otaku. Usually, people would only see him when he went out to take out the garbage. Mom, why does Mr. Ford always look so listless? Little Dave looked up and asked his mother after they walked out of the street. Because he stays in a place where there's no sunlight. He eats junk food and doesn't do anything serious, his mother replied. Doesn't he have to work? Little Dave asked curiously. Mr. Ford inherited a large sum of money from a distant relative, so he doesn't have to work, replied the mother. Oh, he's a lucky man, Mom, said little Dave. Yes, he's very lucky, his mother muttered and then stopped walking. After pondering for a few seconds, she squatted down so that her eyes were at the same level as her son's. With a stern expression, she said, "Listen, Dave. You have to be like your father. Be a hard-working person. Don't envy people like Mr. Ford. You have to understand. Not everyone is so lucky." "Yes, I will, Mom." Little Dave nodded and replied with a half-understanding tone. At 9 in the morning, they arrived at the town's park. Many adults were already sitting on the benches next to the children's playground. Some stalls selling snacks, drinks, and toys had also been set up. Little Dave quickly joined the other children and went to play on the side. Mrs. Dave sat on the bench and chatted with the other housewives. Half an hour later, an old man walked to her side and greeted her. "Hi, Wendy, long time no see." "Oh, hello, Chief Nelson. I was over there and saw you, so I came to say hello. Merry Christmas, Wendy." "Merry Christmas, Mr. Nelson. By the way, how's your wife these days?" "Not bad. She's at home preparing for a party with the children, so I can only bring my granddaughter to the park to play." "Ha! I thought you liked children." "Yes, I like them, but I can't do anything about them." He shrugged. A few seconds later, he seemed to have seen something. Is it a street performance?" "Oh, yes." Mrs. Dave followed the man's gaze and saw the two performers in the distance. "That is Sagittarius and Yang. They are volunteers in the community. They often perform at the park and the old folks' home. The children love them very much." "Oh." Nelson seemed to be interested. "Then I have to go and see it." They soon came to the side of a small truck and stood behind a group of naughty children with the other parents. The children in the front row were obviously looking forward to the performance. When Sagittarius and Yang set up the stage, the children had already gathered around and sat down with their arms around their knees. Nelson's granddaughter and little Dave were among them. "Okay, children, the performance is about to begin." After they were ready, the two main actors jumped onto the simple stage next to the truck. One of them was a bearded man dressed as a Western cowboy, and the other was a big bald man in a shirt and a vest. "Children, today we are going to perform the extremely thrilling, breathtaking shooting apples with darts." Although it didn't sound like a very interesting performance, it was enough to entertain little Penyu. The children happily clapped and laughed. Gurgle, gurgle. Gurgle, gurgle. The sound of flowing liquid rang in Feng Bujue's ears again. At the same time, the memory fragments from earlier also drilled into his mind. Warning, tester 8775 is waking up. Warning, the tester's brain is experiencing an impulse reaction. The source is unknown. Please adjust immediately. The robotic voice sounded again. "That hurts." This time, Brother Jew gritted his teeth and opened his eyes. "TSK, I still can't talk. Oh well, as long as I can see and think." As he thought, he moved his eyeballs and tried to observe his surroundings as much as possible. "I see. I'm also soaked in liquid." He quickly realized that he was also wearing a light-colored bodysuit and floating in a glass container filled with liquid. His condition was the same as the last time he opened his eyes and saw Enoch, if he was called Enoch in this world. "My nasal cavity, lungs, and ears are all filled with this unknown substance, but there is no obvious discomfort or suffocation. The moment I opened my eyes, my eyeballs felt a little sore, but I got used to it after a few seconds. It's easier than opening my eyes in water." Feng Bujue's eyes moved quickly as his mind raced. No matter what this liquid is, it's definitely not a technological product that existed in this universe in 2002. Could it be a setting of the Matrix? He quickly dismissed the idea. No, the calluses on my hands are still there. A body that soaks in a tank for years won't have this kind of thing. Warning, the tester's brain waves are overclocked. The test data exceeds the normal value. The forced termination procedure will be initiated in 20 seconds. What kind of test is this? Mental state? Brain function? Feng Bujue listened to the system voice and speculated about his own situation. "Anton, you asked her Shoal, why is number 8775 awake again?" "Sir." Anton went to the toilet. "WEF. He said he ate something unclean for lunch." "Okay, you don't have to explain for him. Go to the control panel and deal with this. As for Anton, I'll deal with him later." "Yes, sir." The two people conversing outside the liquid container were the same two people from last time. Judging from their conversation, they should be the workers in charge of this test, and they had a superior and subordinate relationship. Phew, buddy, you sure know how to give me trouble. A few seconds later, a blurry shadow appeared before the container that Feng Bujue was in. He mumbled to himself in a low voice. You've almost reached the test value, but you still keep waking up. He groaned and then let out a chilling laugh. Fine, I'll help you. I'll add some stuff for you. Please hurry up and pass this test. Don't give me any more trouble. When he heard that, Feng Bujue really wanted to jump out from the container and hug the NPC. Even though he did not fully understand the meaning behind the man's words, he understood. This NPC, whose name and appearance were unknown, was the man who could help him see through the truth. Those who existed in the nothingness could only give him the answer of nothingness. Those who existed in reality could give him the truth. Increasing the concentration of the solution, adding the special solvent. The forced termination procedure has been deactivated. Preparing the emergency pulse. Counting down in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The moment he was hit by the pulse, Feng Bujue heard a familiar sound. He pondered for a moment, and suddenly realized that this sound was similar to the sound of the ghost postman's bicycle. At the same time, another wave of memory fragments flashed before his eyes. Brother Ju spat out a mouthful of blood on the marble floor. When his consciousness returned to the magnificent hall, he was still in the same position where he smashed the phone to the ground. Time did not seem to have flowed at all. The 6 people around Feng Bujue once again asked the same question in unison. Have you found the answer? Brother Ju's lips curled into a cold smile. He slowly stood up and walked to the long table at the far end of the hall. I think it's about time for dinner. Chapter 770. It wasn't until just now that I figured out one thing. Feng Bujue slowly walked toward the long table. Everyone, he looked at the 13 fat men sitting side by side at the table. The envelope that you would rather die than accept contains an invitation, right? At this time, the 13 people looked at Brother Ju with a rather helpless and fearful look. They did not say a word. I can completely understand you. Feng Bujue walked to the table and stood still with a smile on his face. Put yourself in my shoes. If I were you, I would also refuse. After saying this, he paused for a few seconds. Then, he spread his arms and made a please gesture as if he was the host of this banquet. But since you're already here, why don't you enjoy your last meal? Hearing this, the fat men looked at each other. Soon they all showed a sad look, picked up the cutlery, and began to eat. Hidden mission completed. At this moment, the system voice sounded. Feng Bujue glanced at the mission panel and confirmed that the task of trying to participate in the Last Supper had been ticked. Brother Ju laughed. That's right. Eat slowly and go on your way. It seems that you have seen through the truth, Mr. M said. I'm ashamed. This time, I didn't see through the whole truth. Feng Bujue said, I also relied on the help of someone to know everything that happened here. As he spoke, he turned around and faced the 6 NPCs behind him. And I know your identities. When he said this, his gaze swept across the faces of the 6 people. However, the NPCs did not react. They just stood there silently, as if waiting for him to continue. First of all, 2 seconds later, Feng Bujue's gaze moved to the mysterious woman. You are Dave's survival instinct. It's reasonable for you to appear in the image of his mother, because in the depths of a person's heart, the one who makes him feel the most trustworthy and safe is usually his parents. At this point, Brother Ju had already used the third person to address Dave. It was clear that he no longer cared about the form and content of his words. The instructions he gave me were all based on the 2 points of survival and safety. So, when I first came to this town, you told me to leave. When I lost the means to leave, you told me clearly that if I stayed in town, I would either become a postman or... He turned his head and glanced at the fat men behind him. Become them. After saying this in one breath, Brother Ju walked in front of Narsen and said, And you, Chief Narsen, you without a doubt, the symbol of authority and rules in Dave's heart. Most people have an image of you in their minds. When we are lazy, you will spur us on. When we are tempted, you will warn us. You're like a strict teacher who abides by the rules. You ask us to be punctual, firm, thrifty, and honest. He paused and said, "Now it seems everything printed in the workbook is true. The ghost postman does not need the help and sympathy of others. Everything he does is voluntary. Obviously, he is your proudest student." He looked directly into Narson's eyes. "Different from survival instinct, your task is not to consider my safety, but to urge me to work hard, to make me become..." Fongbujue stopped halfway through the sentence. He took a few steps to the front of the ghost postman. "Like this, I think." At this moment, the ghost postman, or rather, the other Dave, looked at Brother Jew with a kind of joy in his eyes. "You will soon become me." "Yes, you." Brother Jew nodded with a smile. "You represent hard work, nobility, giving silently, no regrets, and so on. You are the self-image that Dave envisioned the most in his mind, and you are the target of my test this time." He paced back and forth. "The various qualities that you have shown before have indeed explained this very well." He shrugged and continued. "People's ideal self is like this. They can't be seen, can't be chased, and can't be held back. Even if it is close at hand, it is still unreachable." Before he finished, Fongbujue had already walked to the front of the Sagittarius and yawned. "As for the two of you," he tilted his head and reached out to touch the back of his neck. "Huh, it is unrealistic fantasy and adventurous spirit, isn't it? You can also call it the ability to fantasize." Yang said expressionlessly. The Sagittarius added, "Or a self-awareness and mental state that goes beyond common sense." "I say the two of you." Fongbujue glared at them with his dead fish eyes and replied, "I have purposely used the term chinibu to make it more tactful. Can the two of you please not push your luck?" "Hey, don't forget, we are a part of you," the Sagittarius replied. Yang added, "Also, you should have noticed your chinibu mentality has two forms. One is the cold type, the other is the flamboyant type. It is Dave's chinibu mentality that has two. Sigh, forget it." Fongbujue wanted to correct them, but he thought it was none of his business. So, he waved his hand and ended the conversation with the two bodyguard gods. He came to the last person. "Let's talk about you, Mr. M." Fongbujue looked at the slightly plump black man and said in a deep voice, "You appeared as Mr. Marvin, Dave's neighbor when he was young, but you didn't directly use the name Marvin. The reason is, you wanted to use the name Mr. M to give me a hint." He walked around the man and said, "After we met, you listed a lot of things about Dave and said, 'I have known you since you could remember.' Therefore, your identity is on the verge of being revealed, memory." "Exactly," Mr. M replied approvingly. "Only your identity was something I had already guessed before opening my eyes for the second time." Fongbujue didn't care much about the man's praise and continued, "Your appearance was very important. The concept of concrete memory made me suddenly enlightened, and I immediately made a lot of new inferences." Brother Jew stopped and suddenly raised his phone. "The phone book on this phone and the hotel's register. There are 4 names exactly the same. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence. After all, English names have a high repetition rate. But after seeing you, I thought for a bit and understood." He tapped his temple twice with his left index finger. "The whole town of Otaku is the product of Dave's consciousness projection. The names on the hotel's register were all people he knew. As for the numbers in the phone book, they were all familiar numbers that he could memorize. In short, everything in the town is a memory fragment." At this point, he suddenly thought of something and added, "Oh, right, Enoch is also one of them." He smiled. Of course, Enoch shouldn't be Dave's friend. He's just someone Dave met when he came to take the test. Since Enoch's test pod happened to be next to Dave's brain also projected this relatively new impression. Clap, 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 clap. When Brother Jew finished his narration, the 6 people began to applaud, and all of them had smiles on their faces. "Congratulations. Very good. You didn't let me down. Well done. That's pretty good, kid. Well done. Their praises were very sincere, but there was an indescribable sense of strangeness. Perhaps it was because all of their personalities were flawed. After all, these 6 people were just a part of a person's consciousness, and they didn't have a complete personality. So, when the applause stopped, Fong Bujue turned again and walked to the long table. Next, it's time to get down to business. The 13 fat men's reactions were surprisingly similar. They all started to tremble, and the food in their hands dropped. Perfunctory, undisciplined, despicable, hypocritical, outwardly strong but inwardly weak, extravagant, lazy, unmotivated. Brother Jew walked from one end of the long table to the other, and he said coldly, "Even I feel ashamed because you are the mainstream consciousness of human beings." He scratched his head and made a helpless expression. If a person's consciousness is visualized into a small town, the majority of the residents will be you, a group of otaku. It is undeniable. As long as the conditions allow, most people are more willing to sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor instead of being pioneers or strivers. He raised his arm and gestured to the side behind him. Thankfully, they still exist in people's hearts. As he spoke, Fong Bujue had already reached the end of the long table. "Okay, everyone, it's time to go." His words were like an order that could not be disobeyed. Just as he finished, the 13 fat Dave quickly and neatly picked up their own table knives and slit their own throats. Both of them died in the same way, face down on the table. Bright red blood dyed the white tablecloth red, and it quickly flowed and dripped onto the marble floor, creating a crackling sound. "Humph!" Fong Bujue looked at the dead bodies on the table and scoffed. Then he turned back to look at the other side of the hall, but he realized that the 6 NPCs who stood in the distance had all disappeared. After waiting for 10 seconds, Fong Bujue suddenly opened his mouth to say, "This still doesn't count as solving the worldview?" At this time, he was the only living person left in the hall, but his tone did not sound like he was talking to himself. Chapter 771. After saying this, Fong Bujue waited for another 10 seconds, as if he was waiting for someone to respond to him. But the only response he got was silence. "Oh!" Brother Jew laughed awkwardly, walked quickly to the table, and knocked on the table. "Hey, are you done playing dead? How long are you going to lie on the table?" The next second, there was a burst of creepy laughter. "You got me." Along with the laughter, one of the 13 corpses suddenly moved. 2 seconds later, the dead fatty sat up straight, raised his hand, and tore off his head. Of course, what he tore off was not his real head, but a full head cover. Fong Bujue looked at Woody, whose face was covered in blood, and said, "With your skills, you can participate in face_off, right? He. If the program allows me to hollow out an adult who weighs close to 400 pounds and turn him into a jacket, I'll consider it." Woody Allen laughed as he uttered a scary line. "Do you want me to wait for you for a few minutes? After you take off this coat?" Fong Bujue raised his hands and made a quotation mark gesture. "Let's talk." "No need, I'm fine like this," Woody replied. "It's quite warm." "Okay." Fong Bujue did not want to continue this topic. "Then tell me, why haven't I cracked the worldview?" He. "Of course it's because there are still a few key details that you haven't mentioned," Woody replied. "In any case, why don't you explain the rules of the command code to the system and let it hear it? Isn't it just the power of 13? Brother Jew squinted his eyes and said, "The clue is hidden in their address. The street number represents the power, and the house number represents the mantissa. Number 3 of the first avenue is 13 to the first power, 13. After removing the mantissa of 3, you will get the command code 1. Number 9 of the second avenue is 13 to the second power, 169. After removing the mantissa of 9, you will get the command code 16. So on and so forth. You will get all the command codes." He tilted his head and glanced at Woody. "And among all the 13 recipients, there is an anomaly. His address is obviously problematic. Everyone else's apartment numbers were 1, 3, 7, and 9. Only he lived in number 10. But his command code still conforms to the above rules." "Ha ha ha." You're right. I've already killed the fourth recipient and changed the recipient's address, Wu Di said with a smile. Are you trying to make things difficult for me? Feng Bujue asked. Yes. Woody admitted as if nothing had happened. I think the pattern of this puzzle is too simple, so I created an abnormal mantissa to disrupt your thinking. Then I have to congratulate you for succeeding, Brother Ju said unhappily. Your performance was not bad. Woody said, after searching through half of the command code, you solved the pattern. Does this count as no difficulty? You created some difficulty and then praised me. Feng Bujue's mouth twitched. Yes, Woody admitted it again. By the way, I chose the fourth person for a reason, because the mission is called The Last Supper. Brother Ju interrupted him before he could finish. You saw through this too? Woody's smile deepened. His smile was already very wretched, and now that his face was covered in blood, he looked like a psychopathic murderer. It's not that hard to figure out, Feng Bujue replied. I heard you mention Judas's bag of gold before, and I feel like you're quite familiar with him. In Da Vinci's painting of The Last Supper, Judas sat fourth from the left, so very good. Your thinking is fast, almost on par with Gu Chen's. Woody laughed. Wait, you know the section chief of the 9th section? Feng Bujue heard the name Gu Chun and asked loudly. It's a long story, Woody replied. We'll talk about this later. As he spoke, he calmly picked up the bloody food on the table and started eating. The system hasn't notified us yet. Quick, say something else. Then there's only the test left. Feng Bujue rubbed his chin and said, when you opened your eyes for the second time, didn't a staff member add a memory unlock solution to you? Woody said as he chewed the shit-like substance in his mouth. Just read the setting. Oh, so that's the only thing missing. Feng Bujue continued in a relaxed tone. It's about, in the year 2122 of this universe, the Earth population has seriously exceeded the limit of what the planet can bear. Faced with this situation, the governments around the world started a Population Right to Survival Act while promoting family planning. As long as you're 16 years old, you have to participate in a Right to Survival test every year until you retire. The content of the test is, under the premise of temporarily losing long-term memory, you have to enter the world of your consciousness projection and obtain the approval of your excellent collective consciousness. In Dave's case, it's the Phantom Postman. If you fail the test, you'll be labeled as someone who has the tendency to waste society's resources. These people will either pay a high population burden tax and wait for next year's test, or they'll have their right to survival taken away and be executed. At this point, Feng Bujue changed his tone. By the way, I have to mention, at the start of the scenario, Dave had 3 $2 bills, 4 $5 bills, 3 $20 bills, and 7 quarters on him. That's exactly 8,775 cents. Now that I think about it, this is no doubt a hint about consciousness projection. World building has been solved. Player Feng Bujue obtained 2,000 skill points as a reward. Hidden quest completed. Finally, after Brother Ju finished explaining all this, the system announcement came. Finally, it's done, Brother Ju mumbled. Wait a minute. Half a second later, he felt something was wrong. Why hasn't the main quest been completed yet? Because I've changed the main quest, Woody replied instantly. Huh. Feng Bujue heard that and quickly glanced at the quest tab. The original main quest, obtain the approval of the Phantom Postman and become the new postman of Ortaka Town. It had become, obtain Woody's approval and leave the scenario. Woody used the blood-stained napkin to wipe his bloody mouth. He smiled and said, don't panic. I just want to talk to you about something. Come, sit down and we'll talk. Chapter 772. The scenario has been completed. Calculating reward. Obtained EXP 120,000. Game coins 100,000. Obtained equipment none. Missions completed 1. Completed special and hidden missions 4. Solved worldview survival test. Time of terror points increase 0. Highest terror points 0%. Average terror points, 0%. Your terror rating is embodiment of valor. Extra reward obtained. Please select later. Obtained skill points, 2,681. Additional bonus from skill points, EXP, 26810. Game coins, 100000. Scenario cleared reward. Puzzle card X2. Side quest reward. The sealed one's right foot. Hidden quest reward. The sealed one's left foot, the sealed one's right wrist, the sealed one's left wrist. Calculation complete. Please continue. After ending his conversation with Woody, Fong Bujue returned to the login lobby. At the same time, the reward for clearing the scenario was listed one by one on screen. The man told me these things. There has to be some kind of conspiracy. Brother Ju mumbled to himself as he browsed through the content on screen. Obviously, before Fong Bujue left the scenario, Woody had given him some information, and it was quite important information. No matter what his purpose is, Brother Ju stared at the calculation screen for about 5 seconds before turning to walk into the storage room. He was still mumbling to himself. Since I already know about it, I have to be prepared. As he spoke, he walked through the elevator door and hurried to the glass column where he could claim his reward. Please select your extra reward. 1. A random piece of equipment corresponding to your level. 2. 50,000 game coins. 3. 19200,000 EXP. The familiar system announcement came again, and Fong Bujue claimed the EXP without hesitation. He was there to level up, and before he was transported back, Woody had even reminded him to claim the EXP. Therefore, Brother Ju did as he was told. You have reached level 49. Maximum stamina points has increased. Current stamina points, 4900, 4900. After claiming 40% of the EXP, Brother Ju reached level 49. He was only one level away from the maximum level, considering the fact that Thriller Paradise had removed the level ranking in version 1. 10. There was no such thing as estimating EXP gain speed through ranking anymore, so Brother Ju could level up as fast as he wanted. If he was fast enough, he would be able to level up that last level by tomorrow morning. Of course, he was not in such a hurry. After all, Woody had given him 3 days, which was 72 hours. It started at 8 o'clock that morning, and it would end around 8 o'clock in the morning on August 7th. Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Note. End lesson the EXP. Okay, let's look at the others. After claiming the EXP, Fong Bujue headed to the other glass tubes. First, he claimed the puzzle cards. This time, he had drawn the puzzle card, sword, and the puzzle card, sweater. These 2 cards had nothing to do with the 12 constellations that he had planned, so he temporarily put them away. Then he collected all the rewards of the side mission and hidden mission in one go. From the names, these items appeared to be the limbs of a person or perhaps a creature. But in reality, they were just 4 cards. The basic design of the cards was the same. The front had a golden background with black edges, and the back had a coffee-colored swirl pattern with yellow edges. What the hell is going on? Fong Bujue took the 4 cards out from the glass tube and held them in his hands. Aren't these the cards from Yu-Gi-Oh!, a trading card game? As he complained, his eyes moved to one of the cards. Actually, there was a difference between this card and Yu-Gi-Oh's Duel Monster card because this card only had a picture on it. There was no race, star level, attack, and defense value, and there was no explanation. The picture on the first card was a golden right foot that looked like armor. There was a golden anklet around the ankle. Name, the sealed one's right foot. Item type, other quality. Normal special effect. Unknown, bound after pickup. Remark, after the seal is removed, you will gain unlimited power. The second card had the word left foot printed on it. The description was the same as the first card. The only difference was the name. The sealed one's right wrist and sealed one's left wrist were the same. How about something weird again? Fong Bujue finished reading the description and put the card away. And this is even scarier than the previous wind, forest, fire, mountain, and thunder series. The reason he said that was because he was quite familiar with the sealed series. He knew that if he wanted to unlock the seal, he would need another card, the sealed Exordia. However, his reward was missing one of the 5 cards. It was like you had gotten 10, J, Q, and K when you were playing poker, but you were missing an ACE card. That was 0. It feels like after I upgrade my inventory, I keep getting similar items, Fong Bujua said as he walked out of the storage room and returned to the elevator. Could this be the system's way of forcing the players to upgrade their inventory? He was not a conspiracy theorist. He was merely making a logical guess based on his experience playing other online games. The Photon computer in 2055 could perform many complicated calculations and adaptations, so it was not hard to realize the situation that Brother Ju mentioned. In fact, most game operators had already done this long ago. In some free online games, where storage space was already tight, when the players' backpacks and warehouses were not empty, the drop rate when they fought monsters would change. The more the players had no place to put their items, the more diverse the items dropped by monsters would be. However, it was varied, not increased drop rate. Even though the items dropped would increase in variety, they would still be trash of the same level. The main purpose of this was to make the players annoyed by the lack of storage space, and then charge their inventory out of anger. I'll have to find a chance to ask Woody or a high-level anomaly next time. As Fong Bujue thought about it, he switched the login lobby to the market. I can keep the jigsaw card sweater for now. After I gather the 12 zodiac sign series, the storage room will be empty, so I'll just leave it there. As for this jigsaw card sword, it is obviously a good card that can be used in many ways. I can use it as a trade. I can name my terms. Once Brother Ju exited the elevator, he headed straight for the jigsaw card trading house. 1 for 2. Before he reached the door, he had already made up his mind. I'll exchange it for a random card and a specific card. As long as the content of the specific card is related to Virgo. After leaving the trading house, Fong Bujue returned to the storage room to organize his stuff. Then he logged out of the game. He predicted that the next time he logged into the game, the card would have already been replaced. Phew! Fong Bujue, who stood up from the gaming hub, let out a long sigh. He stood up to stretch his body. This is the deluxe version after all. My waist and back are no longer sore. It feels more comfortable than lying in bed. Then you can just hook up your esophagus and urinary catheter and lie in there for the rest of your life. Arthas, who was on the sofa, saw Brother Ju stand up, so he mocked him. Fong Bujue scoffed. Humph! If you want to be cocky, you can only do it now. Wait until I master the book of hidden armor. Then you'll beat me back to my original form and torture me as you wish. Arthas interrupted him and replied with a cold laugh. Huh? Didn't you read the information that Guchin gave you? Do you know what level a normal ghost hunter needs to reach to defeat a demon of my level? I read it. Fong Bujue replied. Old Gu even specifically noted in the information. He used a sloppy attitude to cultivate for 5 years and reach that level. Brother Ju continued arrogantly. Then with my talent, my diligence, and my looks, it should be around 5 months. Putting aside your baseless and shameless self-confidence. Arthas squinted her cat eyes and continued. Is cultivation related to looks meow? She paused for a moment. Also, is that Guchin crazy? Why would he make such a pointless note? Actually, he added such a note at the end of almost all the information, and he used his own personal experience as an example to explain it. He said, it's for my reference. Fong Bujue shrugged and said. Also, he left a paragraph at the end of the information. The general meaning is, if your cultivation progress is faster than mine, then it must be because I'm not serious. If it's slower than me, then it's because you're stupid. Hey. Arthas's cat mouth twitched. Could it be? Your hard work for the past half a month was all because of this taunt. How is that possible? Fong Bujue tilted his head and replied. Do I look like such a childish person? Of course you look like it. Suddenly, another person's voice sounded from the living room. I say. Fong Bujue instantly recognized who it was. His expression changed abruptly, and he slowly turned his head. Can't you knock on the door before coming in? Sorry. Wenli Ruo, you replied. She threw the travel bag on her shoulder onto the sofa and put down the luggage in her hands. I came in from the kitchen window. This is the 13th floor. Heroin. For some reason, Brother Bujue's forehead was already soaked in cold sweat. By the way, why did you bring so much luggage? To move in. Ruayu's answer was concise and comprehensive. Oh, a pink sex life with Ruayu. At this time, Arthas on the sofa suddenly interrupted and said with a wretched smile. The next second, she returned to her usual lazy and irritable attitude and continued. This was the thought that flashed through Feng Bujue's mind just now. As soon as she finished speaking, the two people and the cat fell into a short silence. 3 seconds later, well, you saw it too. Feng Bujue began to talk nonsense in a serious manner. She's a psychopath whose gender and race have been distorted. While her physical condition is abnormal, her mental state is also extremely unstable. This may be related to the abuse by her parents when she was young, or it may be caused by the accumulated pressure of long-term work. I'm still investigating the specific reasons, so you don't have to take what she said to heart. Oh, Ruayu looked at Brother Bujue expressionlessly and responded. Then, she turned to look at Arthas and said, I'll move in. You don't have any objections, right? Hey, the owner of the house is here. Feng Bujue roared. However, the other two ignored him and continued to talk among themselves. Do whatever you want, Meow. Arthas also looked at Ruoyu and replied, as long as it doesn't affect my work. Okay, Ruoyu said, then I'll bother you. You decided on your own. Feng Bujue was shocked. Then, Ruoyu and Arthas finished greeting each other and glanced in the direction of the bedroom. From tonight onwards, I'll sleep in that room. This is a little too fast. Feng Bujue squinted at Ruoyu and muttered, you can sleep anywhere outside the bedroom. Be casual. He didn't expect her to say the second half of the sentence. What do you mean by casual? Feng Bujue's veins were popping out. This is my house, right? Even if you're renting it, it's my house. All right, my game cabin will probably be delivered tomorrow morning. I originally wanted to ask the shipping company to deliver it today, but because that kind of super large electronic equipment can only be delivered after it's disassembled, it's too late today. Ruayu said, I have to go to the gallery tomorrow morning to do something. You could take care of it at home. Call me if you need anything. You sound like the mistress of the house. You have your own way of doing things. Feng Bujue stared at her with his dead fish eyes and began complaining. Are you planning to force me to try out marriage? Don't you think you've skipped an important step? Why don't you wait a few more days? I'll prepare a love letter of a few thousand words and fax it to you. We'll start from, you're thinking too much. Ruoyu interrupted Brother Ju with her usual cold tone. I moved here mainly to supervise and protect you. Feng Bujue was stunned. Ruoyu, I know you have psionic power, but the job of supervision and protection. He pointed at Arthas. She's already doing it. You don't have to. Our standpoints are slightly different. Ruoyu continued. We can't be lumped together. Hearing the word standpoints, Feng Bujue's expression changed slightly. Ruoyu, are you also... If you have anything to say, save it for dinner. Ruoyu did not let Brother Ju continue. I'll go to the room to put down my luggage. You can cook first. Wait. Feng Bujue saw Ruoyu turn around and run to the bedroom. He quickly stepped forward. Let me help you. At this moment, a cold gaze was cast over her. It was murderous and contained spiritual power. Go cook. Yes, sir. An hour later, Ruoyu walked out of the room with a large backpack and a huge garbage bag. Feng Bujue's dinner was almost ready. All that was left was to set the table. This bag is something you'll use often. I've already sorted it out for you, so that you won't always come to my room. Ruoyu walked into the living room and put down the backpack in her right hand. She raised her voice and said to Brother Ju in the kitchen, You said something like my room without any sense of awkwardness. Feng Bujue narrowed his eyes and mumbled to himself. 1 hour ago, this was still my room. A few seconds later, Ruoyu dragged the garbage bag and walked to the door. This bag, you can go downstairs and throw it away now. I don't want to see what's inside ever again. Can I open it and check? What if there's something I want to keep? I'll count to 3. Okay, throw it away. I'll change my shoes and go. In the evening, at 6:20, Brother Jew and Ruayu were already sitting at the dining table. There were 3 dishes and a soup on the table. They were all home-cooked dishes. It's really good. Ruayu ate very well. She would only speak when there was no food in her mouth. It's much better than what my dad cooks. You're flattering me, Feng Bujue casually responded. He was not so particular. He was stuffing food into his mouth as he spoke. Well, since you're talking about your father. Brother Jew paused for half a second before he took the opportunity to ask, You moving to my place? Are your parents okay with it? When I first mentioned it to them, they were a little dissatisfied. Ruayu replied. Yeah, I knew it. Feng Bujue dragged out his tone. They think that it's better for us to get married first before living together. Ruayu always had a delay of 1 or 2 seconds in the latter half of her sentence. Puffed. Feng Bujue spat out the rice that he had not finished chewing. Cough, cough. He coughed out the rice that had entered his windpipe and said with difficulty, I really don't know whether to say they are too open-minded or too conservative. Later, I explained to them why I moved here and why. Ruayu, on the other hand, had a calm expression. She continued, They understood and expressed their confidence in you. Ahem. What do you mean by confident? Feng Bujue's breathing gradually calmed down. There are 2 meanings, Ruayu replied. First, they think you're a good person and they trust you. Second, you're no match for me anyway. Brother Jew opened his mouth and realized that he was speechless. Then, let's talk about the question you wanted to ask me earlier. Ruayu brought the topic back on track. Don't worry, I'm not from the 9 sciences, nor do I belong to any government organization. At this point, she changed the topic. But I do have some connections with the 9 sciences. Feng Bujue continued in a low voice. Are you one of their surveillance targets? No. Ruayu denied his speculation and said in a very calm tone. Simply put, Guchen is my grandfather's brother-in-law. Chapter 773. August 4th. For Feng Bujue, this was a very difficult day. He did not know if it was a coincidence or a scheme, but he received a free luxurious gaming cabin, but lost his own room. He did not know if it was luck or misfortune, but he was living under the same roof with a beautiful woman, but he was no match for her that night. He sat in front of the computer, opened a document, and typed the first line of words. The furthest distance in the world is not the distance between life and death, but between you in the bedroom and me in the living room. After he was done, he proudly kept this sentence. He was probably going to write it in a novel in the future. I want to take a shower. At 9:30, Ruayu walked out of the bedroom and greeted Brother Bujue, who was sitting in the living room. Oh, Feng Bujue casually responded. His eyes moved away from the computer screen for 2 seconds and glanced at Ruayu. At this moment, Ruayu had already changed into a very loose, short-sleeved t-shirt and a pair of pure cotton shorts. She had also changed into slippers on her feet. Looking at the way she dressed, she really did treat this place as her home, very casual. I brought some toiletries. Ruayu carried a basin full of things to the bathroom and said as she walked, other than towels, toothbrushes, and bathrobes, you can use the rest if you want. I have my own shampoo and soap. Feng Bujue's eyes quickly returned to the screen. I don't need it. I know. Ruayu turned back and said, I just thought that the things you used were too bad, so I suggested this. After that, she went into the bathroom, closed the door, and latched the door from the inside. TSK. Feng Bujue tilted his head and whispered, It's fine as long as it's clean and comfortable. Why are you so particular? A woman's body needs to be carefully maintained and cared for. Meow. Arthas, who was sitting on the sofa, interrupted again. How can we be like you? Using those inferior products all year round. Meow. Oh. This is the reason why you stole my citizen ID a while ago to order the top brand of hair care products online, right? Feng Bujue turned to glare at Arthas. I'm already being polite by not asking you to send me for a manicure. Meow. Arthas replied calmly. Do you know, the price of that bottle is enough for me to buy a year's worth of shampoo and soap, Brother Jew said. If it weren't for the fact that I'm afraid of getting skin diseases, I would have tried some. It's not that the things I bought are too good. It's that you're using them too poorly. Arthur's tone changed slightly at this point. 2 seconds later, she sighed. "Sigh, let's not talk about it anymore. You're just like that. There are some things that you may never realize. It doesn't matter how smart you are." Huh? Feng Bujue was stunned for a second. "What do you mean? What is it?" "It's nothing, I'm just saying meow," Arthas said, and then turned her head away. "I'm going to sleep for a while. Don't disturb me, meow." Feng Bujue stared at the cat for a few seconds before shrugging and mumbling, "Weird." Then he turned his attention back to the computer. Actually, what Arthas wanted to say to Brother Jew was, "You're too harsh on yourself, but you're very kind to your friends." But she did not say that out loud. Her mission was to monitor and protect this human. If she built a bond of friendship or even kinship with him, it would be very detrimental to her mission. Therefore, she should not be the one to say those words. 20 minutes later, Ruoyu walked out from the bathroom. Her head was wrapped in a towel, and she wore a bathrobe. Once she stepped out, she turned to Brother Jew and asked, "Bujue, are you going to log into the game later?" "Of course." Feng Bujue answered without raising his head. "After all, I'm going to spend the night in the gaming hub." Normally speaking, Brother Jew would play the game in the first half of the night and leave the hub to use the toilet in the second half of the night. Then he would return to his bed to sleep. "Oh, okay. Then help me pass a message to Su Huaishang. Tell her that I'm busy today, so I won't be able to queue with her." Ruoyu said, and turned to walk into the bedroom. Feng Bujue turned to look at Ruoyu. "When did the two of you start hanging out together?" "After we left the sandbox. We added each other as friends," Ruoyu replied. "In the past half-month that you've been AFK, we've played a few scenarios together, and it feels like we've gotten along quite well." Then why do you want me to pass the message?" Feng Bujue asked again. He looked rather nervous. "I don't get along with her because you added her as friends as well," Ruoyu answered. "Furthermore, you're right in front of me. Is there a need for me to go out of my way to contact someone else?" "Oh, I see." Feng Bujue sighed in relief. "I understand. What time do you want me to pass the message?" "There's no rush," Ruoyu added. "She has to complete the studio's quota before she can move freely. Therefore, we've arranged to meet at 2 a.m. She paused. "You only need to log in before 2 a.m. If it's convenient for you, you can contact her. If it's not convenient, you can send her an email. She has set up a friend email reminder, V1. 10 Social Systems' new feature in her login space. She will definitely receive the message." "Understood," Feng Bujue replied. "I'll go to bed in an hour at most. I'll be online at midnight." Then, Ruoyu suddenly slowed down. "I'm going back to my room." You should rest early too. You have something to do tomorrow morning." Feng Bujue replied. "Good night." "Good night." A few seconds later, the bedroom door closed. Silence returned to the living room. Only the sound of the computer's fan was still making a slight whirring sound. "God!" Arthas wagged its tail and broke the short silence. "I'm watching from the side. I'm worried for you guys. I don't understand what you're saying." Feng Bujue squinted his eyes. Arthas ignored Brother Jew's quibbling and continued. "Since both of you want to spend more time with each other, why do you guys have to go your own ways? I feel like there's nothing to say for the time being. Are we supposed to sit face to face and stare at each other?" Feng Bujue asked. "Can't we?" Arthas asked back. "Is there a rule that says the two of you can't sit together and stare at each other? Don't you think that a bit silly?" Brother Jew replied without confidence. Silly?" Arthas continued in disappointment. "You're a human, Feng Bujue. You were born silly. There are only a few people in this world who aren't silly, and they are the most pitiful." Chapter 774. At midnight, Feng Bujue logged into the game in sleeping mode. After entering the login lobby, the first thing he did was open up the social tab and found the username Su Huaishang. Very good. Seeing that she was in the game, he was overjoyed. This saved him the trouble of contacting her. Then Brother Jew used the shortcut option in his friend list to enter the mailbox interface. He used a simple sentence to send a message to Su Huaishang on behalf of Ruoyu. After that, he went through his own mailbox. Coincidentally, the notification from the puzzle card trading company arrived. Feng Bujue knew from the title that the puzzle card sword had already been traded away. 5 minutes later, he ran to the trading company and returned to the storage room. Ha! Finally, Feng Bujue held the puzzle card lowly in his hand and laughed excitedly. The time to witness a miracle has come. His expression, choice of words, combined with the item in his hand, it really made people want to mock him, a combination of 12 cards. Brother Ju mumbled as he took out the cards from the box. The chance of getting a legendary equipment should be very high. For those familiar with the plot of the book, this kind of self-flagging behavior usually led to tragedy, but that was how Brother Ju liked it. He placed the other card, puzzle card, tier, into the storage box and took out the 11 cards that he had accumulated for a long time. When all 12 cards were in his hand, he called out the menu and selected combination. Found a possible combination sequence. A heartening announcement from the system entered Feng Bujue's ears, and a synthesized list floated up before his eyes. Card set name: 12 zodiac signs. Consumes: puzzle card, sheep *2, puzzle card ox, puzzle card twins, puzzle card crab, puzzle card lion, puzzle card lowly, puzzle card Libra, puzzle card scorpion, puzzle card bow, puzzle card bottle, puzzle card fish. You have selected the combination 12 zodiac signs. Please confirm. 2 seconds later, another announcement came. Feng Bujue, of course, chose to confirm. Then the 12 cards dissolved into white light and reassembled into a card in his hand. The design of the card was very intricate, with the stars as the background and the sun as the outline. The images of the 12 constellations were arranged in a ring pattern. The card set has been generated. Would you like to exchange it for equipment? Even though the system announcement came quickly, this time, Brother Ju did not choose yes immediately. After all, this was something that he had accumulated for a long time. Emotionally speaking, it was very different from the kind of card set that he had randomly assembled. Therefore, he looked at the deck of cards for a minute before he reluctantly chose to exchange for it. As the card set dissolved into white light, a white light appeared on the other side of the storage room and then turned into a glass pillar. Feng Bujue turned to walk over. He waited for several seconds before he took out the equipment inside the pillar. Name: Staff of Asclepius. Item type: weapon quality, legendary offense points, medium element. None special effect 1. Power of evolution. Doubles a player's basic physical skill and stamina points. Increases the player's stamina points recovery speed to 1,000 seconds. Duration: 3 minutes. Cooldown: 30 minutes. Special effect 2. Power of summoning. Doubles a player's summoned creature's maximum mana points and stamina points. Increases the player's stamina points recovery speed to 100 seconds. Duration: 3 minutes. Cooldown: 30 minutes. Special effect 3. Power of immortality. Grants a player the ability to revive once in a scenario. Limited to 1 use per scenario. Equip requirement: Medic Mastery A, bound after equipping. Remark: a staff that possesses the power of evolution, spirituality, and immortality. It symbolizes the noble will of the god of medicine. It really is legendary. Feng Bujue's expression chilled immediately. But, he screamed, I can't use it. He grabbed the golden staff with the golden snake carving wrapped around it and danced around it, as if he wanted to break it. You've been calling for *T to come out, haven't you? Do you think it is easy for me to save up this card for the past few months? It was unclear who he was angry at, but in any case, he calmed down after a few minutes. Sigh, so be it. Brother Ju sighed. Toss it into the guild storage. Missin's Medic Mastery is not far from level A. With this, she will be able to join the ranks of the top players. He was telling the truth. Anyone, as long as they could equip this staff, their ranking on the overall player ranking would skyrocket. Just based on the staff's third effect alone, all the guilds in Thriller Paradise, regardless of whether they had a gaming studio or not, would fight to be your friend. At this point, there would be people who would say, since this was a bound item, why didn't Brother Ju sell it? Admittedly, that was a good idea. To be fair, if Feng Bujue really wanted to sell something like the Staff of Asclepius, he would not have needed to go to the auction house in the game. He could have just gone to the trading site for virtual items and listed the price for the item for around 100,000 RMB, and he would have been able to sell it easily. It was not that Brother Jew had not thought about this before, but he did not do it. The Feng Bujue of today was no longer the casual player from 4 months ago who only wanted to play the game to cure his illness and earn some extra cash. Be it from the knowledge that he possessed or his own ability, he was no longer a normal person. His motivation for joining the game had changed as well. At the moment, compared to money in real life, he felt like it was more important to improve his team in the game. After placing the staff of Asclepius into the guild storage and sending an email to Hua Jian, Feng Bujue decided to stay in the login lobby and read the forum. Since Xiao Tan, Xiao Ling, and Hua Jian were not online yet, he decided to wait for them. He could make use of this time to make up for the time that he had not logged into the game for half a month. The internet addict died on the street. The culprit was acquitted. Brother Jew had just opened the forum when he saw this post at the top of the homepage. It was tagged with the word popular. After reading the title once, he clicked on the post. Recently, the Supreme Court of XX City made the final judgment on the hotly discussed case of Bentley ran over the internet addict and acquitted the culprit. The defense lawyer argued that the young man known as Chinibya Hammer was addicted to the internet for many years, causing him to be in a trance. Therefore, he was judged to be an incompetent person. It was a dereliction of duty for the custodian to allow such a person to walk on the street. As for the prosecution lawyer's argument that the Bentley owner bribed the police, destroyed evidence at the scene, and falsified alcohol test results, the court rejected all of these arguments due to insufficient evidence. After Feng Bujue finished reading the post, he sighed. Oh, this kind of annoying social news again. No wonder it became a popular post. Brother Jew was already used to similar reports. These days, the media was happy to hype up negative news. The more this kind of news could stimulate the emotions of the netizens, the more attention it would attract. After all, the only thing that could calm everything down was time. At most, it would take 10 days to half a month for the netizens to do what they were supposed to do. Oh, someone has already maxed out? Brother Jew continued to read, and soon came across another title. Another record of maxing out. Order. Once again, they prove that they are the true kings. Regardless of whether regulation was the so-called king or not, the ghostwriters they hired were really dumb. This kind of title was practically screaming at the world. I just took 50 cents for my post. Feng Bujue clicked on the post and got a brief understanding of the situation. So, during the half a month he was AF King, Phantom Dawn had reached level 50. When he reached the maximum level, all the players in Thriller Paradise received the system announcement. This kid, after being tortured by loot at the tournament for the best, he had learned from his painful experience. He had toned down his casual attitude and played seriously for more than a month. Now, even the prideful Shiva from Brahman had to admit that in terms of combat ability, Phantom Dawn was the strongest player in Thriller Paradise. Moreover, this situation was likely to remain unchanged for a long time in the future. Of course, there were those who were convinced, and there were those who were not. The people from Zombie Blade were obviously not convinced. Perhaps no one would believe it, but in the field of leveling up, Regulation's biggest competitor was not Brahmin, Blades, or Jianghu, but Zombie Blade. The reason was simple. The people from Zombie Blade had used drugs. As mentioned earlier, the drugs they used could suppress the terror points to a certain extent. Even though they were not as fearless as Brother Jew, compared to players who had not used drugs, they were much better. The management of Zombie Blade knew that in terms of top players, they were no match for the other studios. After Zombie Blade is King left, the gap between them grew even bigger. Therefore, the strategy that they came up with was to use their advantage in terror points to have all the top players clear single-player normal dungeons and aim for the record of being the first player to max level in the server. But to their surprise, in the end, they still failed to catch up to Phantom Dawn and failed at the last minute. With such an ending, how could they not be angry? Therefore, on the day Phantom Dawn maxed out, a war outside the game started. Chapter 776. In terms of overall strength, Regulation was definitely more powerful than Zombie Blade, but when it came to playing tricks, Zombie Blade was more familiar with the game. After Phantom Dawn became the first player with max level in the server, Zombie Blade only needed half a day to come up with a plan. The water army that they had under their command was mobilized after they received the plan. They started to attack Regulation and Phantom Dawn with all kinds of malicious comments that were made out of nothing. Instantly, many unfounded and ridiculous rumors started to circulate on all the forums related to Thriller Paradise, and they attracted all kinds of replies. Questioning, guessing, provoking, slandering for no reason. As the saying goes, when the forest is big enough, there are all kinds of birds. The internet is a very good window for us to see the various kinds of people in the world. It also allows us to see the intelligence, quality, character of many people. Of course, the water army could only fool a small portion of people for a short period of time. Those with a discerning eye could tell who was behind the water army with one glance. As long as one had a certain level of intelligence and awareness, they would have the ability to distinguish between right and wrong. In less than 2 days, the internet water army that Zombie Blade sent out had disappeared because they had no way of replying in their own posts. No matter how they argued, they were just asking for humiliation. This battle outside the game could be said to be a quick one. Zombie Blade, the loser, did not even manage to hurt Regulation. If anything, he was the one who got the short end of the stick. Sigh. So many things have happened in the past half a month. Fong Bujua commented after reading the thread. If Zombie Blade's water army is cute, then Regulation's water army is cute and dumb. Then he flipped through the hundreds of pages of forum records and scanned through all the threads from the past 10 days. He also browsed through some of the popular threads and threads that he was interested in. Threads like the correct use of puzzle cards, how to reach level 40 in 1 month, wake up tycoon snipers, dear friends. Please don't underestimate growth-type equipment and skills. And other posts with sharp viewpoints became popular posts that received widespread attention and discussion. Obviously, as time moved on, the player's understanding of Thriller Paradise matured. Now, whether it was character attributes, equipment, skills, specializations, spiritual weapons, or even Soul's Eye, there were already people discussing them, and many of them were quite correct and brilliant. There are quite a lot of smart people. Fong Bujua browsed the forum for more than 2 hours and suddenly felt that he was a little outdated. There are some weird arguments that even I haven't considered. I really have to come to the forum more in the future. 2 hours later, only 12 minutes had passed in the real world, the Underworld frontline members were still not online. Therefore, Brother Jew returned to the Thriller box and started to browse through the growth-type equipment and skills. Previously, Rua's Sainthood and Bright Jade skill had already given Fong Bujua some inspiration. Today, after reading a certain thread on the forum, he instantly made the decision to purchase a very powerful growth-type item. The idea of the thread was Blood Rose. She used herself as an example to explain the benefits that growth-type equipment would bring in the later stages of the game. It was logical and convincing. Speaking of which, she was a professional player from Red Cherry, Su Huaishan's colleague. Before joining Thriller Paradise, she was just a second-tier player. But recently, as her level increased, her power rose to the top, and she relied on the help of these growth-type items. There are so many things here that I can't finish reading them. Fong Bujua returned to the Thriller box and opened the familiar interface, but what awaited him was more than 10,000 pages of data. And these were just skills. There were probably tens of thousands of pages of equipment and items. Moreover, these data were constantly updated and constantly changing. There's no other way. Let's filter. Brother Jew hesitated for a few seconds before deciding to use the system's filtering function. He filtered out the items that he couldn't use and the items that were too cheap. He only looked at the items that were worth more than 10,000 skill points. After half an hour, he locked onto an item. Name, I_1_a belt. Type, armor, quality, excellent, defense, weak, attribute, none, special effect. Each time you receive an attack, the equipment will increase your defense a little bit. Prerequisites, Waist size below 32 yards. Binds after pickup. Remark: every death means a new beginning, and every new beginning means a new death. When your blood splatters everywhere you go, the pain will be as natural as breathing. An ambiguous name, an ambiguous equipment condition, and an ambiguous remark. It was such an ambiguous equipment that had an unimaginable price, 12,000 skill points. Currently, Fong Bujue only had 12,134 skill points. If he bought this, then his skill points would be left with only a fraction. However, Brother Ju bought this item without hesitation. It wasn't because he was rich or willful, but because he thought it was worth it. Most people, after reading the description and price of this item, would just ignore it and forget about it. But Brother Ju was different. He would think, why was this item so expensive? The system was fair, and the price given by the system was more reliable than the subjective evaluation of any player. Therefore, this item was definitely not mispriced. There had to be a secret behind it. After reading the description a few times, Fong Bujue understood. The special effect of each time you receive an attack, the equipment will increase your defense a little bit, was the problem. This special effect didn't have a duration, a cooldown, or an upper limit. If you thought about it carefully, you would realize this was a very scary thing. Beep, beep. Just a few seconds after Brother Ju bought this item, he heard 2 short beeps. He looked at the game menu and saw that Xiao Tan had sent him a message and a party invitation. Just in time. Brother Ju muttered as he turned around and walked back to the login lobby. On the way back to the elevator, he had already replaced the Echo armor with the _1 belt. Both items were belts. The latter was an old piece of equipment that had accompanied Brother Ju for a long time. At this point, it could be considered to have died. It was just waiting to enter the disintegrator. Yo, Xiao Tan, long time no see. How have you been? Fong Bujue came in front of the touchscreen and said after picking up the call, it hasn't been that long, just 2 weeks. Xiao Tan replied, the recent change is probably that Xiao Ling and I are living together. What? Fong Bujue's voice was raised. We've been dating for a long time. She asked to live together, so I agreed. Xiao Tan continued, you beast. Fong Bujue replied, Hey, she was the one who asked, okay? Xiao Tan lowered his voice and replied, furthermore, don't you and Sister Rain know about that little thing between us as well? I don't know anything, and you don't have to explain it to me. I'm a pure person, and I don't want to hear about your dirty daily life. Fong Bujue replied shamelessly. Friendship between men is like this. All our blessings and happiness are contained in trash talk. Okay, with the chemistry between Xiao Tan and Brother Ju, he naturally knew that Brother Ju was joking. Then let's talk about something else. Hua Jian is not online today, and Xiao Ling said she wasn't feeling well and wanted to go to bed early, so I came here alone. Where do you usually sleep? Fong Bujue asked. Don't mind the details. Xiao Tan replied awkwardly. Anyway, it's just the 2 of us tonight. We don't have to wait for them. Chapter 777. The scenario was based on the famous detective in comic Shua, so if there was a similarity, it was not a coincidence. After chatting for a few minutes, they decided to do a normal team dungeon together as a warm-up. Then, Xiao Tan transferred the party leader's authority to Brother Ju and went to the storage room to prepare for the scenario. Fong Bujue used this time to put the Echo armor into the storage before returning to the login lobby. After they were ready, Brother Ju clicked on the touchscreen and joined the queue. Fong Bujue, level 49, Wang Tanji, level 46. Please select the game mode that your team will join. You have selected Team Survival Mode. Normal. Please confirm. Confirmed. The number of team members has been randomized. 2. Your team has joined the queue. Matching complete. Coordinating nerve connection. Generating scenario. Downloading. Please wait a moment. At that point, Brother Ju and Xiao Tan lost control of their bodies and entered a first-person perspective. Welcome to Thriller Paradise. Huff, huff, huff. 2 seconds later, a wretched male voice said, and after that, he chuckled 3 times like he was acting cute. Download complete. You are currently in Team Survival Mode, Normal. A scenario introduction is provided in this mode, and there is a chance of triggering hidden side quests and special world building. Reward for clearing the scenario. Randomly draw a learnable skill card. Playing the scenario introduction soon. The game will start immediately after that. This looks like a normal scenario, Fong Bujua said. It all depends on the reward for clearing the scenario. The scenario had just started, and he was already considering what he would get after clearing the scenario. Obviously, for Brother Jew, clearing a normal team dungeon was a piece of cake. There is a demon living in the courtyard. All the companions that I can rely on are dead. Hey, what's going on? Before the opening cinematic came out, 2 lines of lyrics sung in Japanese sounded in his ears. Moreover, the melody and content of the song seemed familiar. This gave Fong Bujua an ominous feeling. Dedicating my youth to volleyball. But everyone looks like they're dead. I think I know what song this is. Fong Bujua said, "Isn't this the OP of the first season of Rewa?" Funny Manga Rewa is a manga published by Yukino Sukesada in Shueisha's monthly Shonen Jump in January 2000. It's famous for its nonsensical plot and fast-paced. You and I, not friends. My friend. He's your friend. That's the general idea, so don't get carried away. They even changed the last line. Brother Jew mumbled. Of course, that's not the main point. The main point is, what kind of joke is this? Before he could recover from the song, the opening cinematic officially began to play. And the style of this CG reminded him of another script or sandbox that he had passed before. Compared to South Park, this is a different kind of novelty, isn't it? Fong Bujua looked at the out-of-shape drawing and commented coldly. Compared to the original One Punch Man, this is about as good as it is a famous detective. A question that came out of nowhere opened the introduction. In the next second, a pink, anthropomorphic rabbit appeared on the screen. It had hands, feet, and clothes, but its palms and head still retained the characteristics of an animal. Wearing a green sleeveless top, a hot pink skirt, and yellow shoes, she stood on a light green lawn and waved to the camera. Behind her was a background that looked like a child's graffiti. Houses, trees, mountains that were obviously disproportionate to the scale of the character, and the blue sky and white clouds that looked like a picture. Bunny May-chan from Zoological Elementary School's 4th grade Class 1. The chan here is a nickname added after a female's name in Japanese. When addressing a male, she would usually use ku or san. It may be used many times in this script, so it's noted here, is a famous detective. Once something happens, he will show off his skills with his proud reasoning. As long as he encounters a crime, whether it's true or not, he will report it to the police. He's a cold-hearted guy. It's here. It's here. Fong Bujua's soul of ridicule was instantly awakened. When I heard the theme song, I was wondering what kind of setting it would be. So, it's an animal elementary school. I can already foresee the level of pain in the balls in this scenario. Perhaps it's the legendary egg-cracking level. The narration continued, leaving aside the question of what egg-cracking level Fong Bujua was talking about. Today is the first day of the new semester. The first thing Mr. Panda announced after he walked up to the podium was that there would be a transfer student moving to Year 4 Class 1. Following the announcement, the cinematic cut to the classroom. It was a normal elementary school classroom, and it was filled with anthropomorphic animals like cats, dogs, pigs, and elephants. It did not look out of place. The transfer student is Aiko the penguin from South Pole Elementary School, right? Fong Bujua looked at the screen and said, based on his memory of the animation, Brother Jew came up with the plot. But he had miscalculated. There are 2 transfer students this time. Fong Bujua was startled. 2? Wait a minute. Could it be? They are Mao Taro and Jean Izumi's son Taro. God. Fong Bujua did not believe in God, so he used the name of God as an interjection. At this point, an anthropomorphic cat and an anthropomorphic falcon walked into the classroom one after another. Students, these are Mao Taro and son Taro who transferred from South Pole Elementary School. Please get along well from now on, Mr. Panda said. Why is it that before the scenario has even started, I already want to F asterisk king quit. Due to too many complaints, Feng Bujue's balls started to hurt, even though he had not regained control of his body, so he could not feel any pain at all. I am Mao Taro. My specialty is deduction. I was known as the famous detective at my previous school. I am Sun Taro, a member of the detective club. I am Mao Taro's partner. The two transfer students made a very bold self-introduction, and the whole class turned to look at them curiously. However, at that moment, from the last row of the classroom, a sharp gaze was trained on them, and the owner of that gaze was Tumei. They said they're the detectives. This is not good. Tumei-chan, Xiongji, who sat to Tumei's right, widened his eyes. He whispered to Tumei, a strong opponent has arrived, and there are two of them this time. This is even worse than when Aiko the penguin transferred here. What the? Are you still in school? When the camera moved to Xiongji, even Feng Bujue was shocked. The law in your universe is a bit too lax. You were arrested so many times, but you were still able to get out. Note, in the related stories of Detective Tumei, all the criminals involved were Xiongji. Xiongji's crimes were very obvious, and he confessed every time without being pressed. The ending of every story was the arrest of Xiongji. This is very interesting. Tumei smiled. I wish to see their deduction ability. At this point, the introductory cinematic stopped. Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji regained their mobility in 1 second. However, the characters that they controlled were not Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji, but Mao Taro and Sun Taro. Main quest has been triggered. This time, the main quest was straightforward. It refreshed right after the introductory cinematic. Brother Bujue immediately opened the quest tab to take a look, and then he was completely shocked. Complete the scenario with 33 chapters. F asterisk CK. This was Feng Bujue's first reaction. At that moment, the system's voice rang in his and Xiao Tan's ears again. The pressure of full attendance, the exhaustion of the manuscripts, the twist of life, the twist of inspiration. On this day, the legendary detective sealed in the darkness has awakened once more. He and his assistant will write a brand new legend. Chapter 778. Mao Taro, Sun Taro, you two can sit over there, Ms. Panda said to Brother Ju and Xiao Tan after the system audio ended. Feng Bujue looked in the direction the teacher was pointing at. The over there she mentioned was the two seats in front of Xiongji and Tumei. Okay, Ms. Panda, Brother Ju answered calmly. Yes, Ms. Panda. Teacher. Xiao Tan mimicked his teacher and followed up. Then, the two of them carried their backpacks and walked to the second last row of the classroom. They sat in front of Xiongji and Tumei respectively. Then, students, we will officially start our class. After the two transfer students were seated, Ms. Panda said, turn to the first page of your textbook. As she said that, she turned around to pick up a piece of chalk and started to write a mathematical formula on the blackboard. I say, Brother Ju, what is going on with this scenario? When Xiao Tan saw the teacher turn around, he leaned to the side and whispered to Brother Ju next to him, it's one thing to talk about the sun and the worldview, but what is this weird main mission? I'm also trying to figure it out. Feng Bujue whispered. If the end of one incident means the end of the story, then this scenario is practically impossible to clear. He glanced at Xiongji, who sat behind him, and lowered his voice. After all, Xiongji's crimes are usually solved within 30 seconds from the moment Tumei intervenes in the investigation. Main quest triggered. The system seemed to be replying to Brother Ju, and then a new main quest popped up. After hearing that, Brother Ju and Xiao Tan exchanged a look. They opened the game menu and looked at the mission tab. Limit the number of times Xiongji has been arrested to 10 times, including the 10th time. The meaning of the second main mission was clearer, and next to the mission was the words, current number of arrests, 0. There's even a countdown. When Xiao Tan saw the content of the mission, he couldn't help but grumble. Since there are 10 chances, it shouldn't be that hard, right? How many times can he commit crimes in the 33 chapters? This is a normal difficulty scenario. How hard do you want it to be? Brother Ju asked. Also, aren't you underestimating Xiong Ji Kuan's ability to commit crimes? Xiaotan also glanced at Xiong Ji, and then he whispered, By the way, Brother Ju, I was thinking, can we kill Xiong Ji? Feng Buju asked. That way, he won't be arrested even once, right? Xiaotan was obviously startled. Actually, what I wanted to say was, can we injure or imprison him? But the plan that you suggested seems feasible, but it is a bit cruel. It's all the same. Feng Bujue replied. In any case, it's not feasible. He shook his head. If we don't allow Xiongji to move freely, there won't be any incidents. And then how are we going to complete the 33 chapters? You have a point. Xiaotan scratched the feathers on his temples. This is so troublesome. As soon as he finished speaking, he realized something and his expression changed. My hands. Yes, they have turned into something that looks like wings, but they are still divided into 5 parts. They have a certain degree of hardness and can be bent. Feng Bujua picked up where Xiao Tan left off. By the way, your head has turned into the shape of a falcon. If you don't believe me, you can touch your nose and mouth. They have turned into beaks. No wonder I felt something was off. As Xiao Tan spoke, he really used his anthropomorphic winged hand to touch his face. Speaking of which, my eyesight seems to have improved. That's normal. Falcons are one of the animals with the best vision. Feng Bujue replied. Theoretically, from this distance, you should be able to see the fleas in my hair. I don't want to see that kind of thing. Xiao Tan continued. Mao Taro, Sun Taro. Just as the two of them were chatting happily, Teacher Panda had finished writing on the blackboard. She turned around and said, Listen carefully in class. Don't talk. Yes, Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji stretched their intonations and replied in unison. Their responses were very neat and in sync, as if they had rehearsed this countless times. A few seconds later, the two of them showed an interesting smile at the same time, because they both realized that the scene just now was like a replay of their elementary school days. With the bell ringing, the first class ended. At this moment, Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji suddenly became nervous. For them, class was a relaxing time, even if they were suddenly called by the teacher to answer a question. Grade 4 math was not difficult for them. However, it was different after class because, after class, Xiongji might make a move, meow. As expected, 1 minute after the teacher left the classroom, Miao Mei, the object of Xiongji's admiration, the victim of most of the incidents, screamed. Basically, Miao Mei's screams meant that an incident was about to happen. Even the other characters in this world knew that this was the beginning of a storyline. Tu Mei heard this and immediately turned her head. Huh? Did something happen? Oh, Xiongji immediately popped up from the side. This way, we'll be able to witness Bunny Mei-chan's long-awaited reasoning. As they spoke, Tu Mei and Xiongji walked towards Miao Mei's desk. Why are you so excited? Feng Bujua looked calm on the surface, but in his heart, he was thinking, You did it. You must have done it. Brother Bujua. At this time, Wang Tanji called out to Feng Bujua softly. Let's go and take a look. Oh, let's go. Feng Bujua nodded at him. Soon, 7 or 8 students in the class gathered around Miao Mei's desk. What's wrong? Miao Mei. Tu Mei went forward and asked, Did someone put a cat's tongue in the desk? Your assumption is so scary, Tu Mei-chan. Xiongji added. Public morals are degenerating day by day. Tu Mei replied. There's nothing strange about it. Xiongji-kun. I think something was stolen. It should be. Xiongji did not continue Tu Mei's words, but made an assumption. Is that so? Tu Mei heard this and turned to look at Miao Mei. Sob. Miao Mei sobbed. My school swimsuit was stolen, sob sob. How? How shameless is this? We can't let this criminal go. Tu Mei-chan. Xiongji immediately shouted. At this time, a penguin in the group of people suddenly spoke. Today is the first day of school, so everyone will bring their school swimsuits from home to school. That means the crime happened after Miao Mei came to school before the first class. The student who started making assumptions was naturally Detective Aiko the Penguin, who had transferred from South Pole Elementary School. Yes, I think so too. Tumei continued. Everyone was chatting in the classroom this morning, so most of them were not sitting in their seats. The criminal could have easily stolen the swimsuit when no one was paying attention. The reasoning of these two guys is quite reliable. Fong Bujue squinted his eyes and looked at the two famous Japanese detectives. But his eyes moved to Xiongji. Is it really necessary to make assumptions about this kind of incident? Xiongji is wearing a female school swimsuit. Obviously, Brother Ju was not the only one who noticed this. About 3 seconds later, Tumei and Aiko the penguin turned to Xiongji, and their expressions changed. Oh, Bunny Mei-chan's eyes have become sharp. Xiongji looked at Tumei's huge eyes and exclaimed, "This is the sign of Tumei-chan's inspiration." Because of this characteristic, Tumei also got the nickname, Tumei's terrible eyes. No criminal has ever been able to escape from his sharp eyes. Xiongji looked at Aiko the penguin, who was grinning, and exclaimed, "Aiko the penguin's gums are exposed. Disgusting. No wonder he is the famous detective with the nickname Disgusting Gums. When he shows his gums, it is the moment of inspiration." Under the burning gaze of Tumei and Aiko the penguin, Xiongji explained these meaningless explanations seriously. He seemed to have forgotten that he was a criminal, as if he didn't know that he was wearing the stolen school swimsuit. God. Seeing this, Fong Bujue could only hold his forehead with his cat paw and sigh. 5 minutes later, the police who received the report arrived at the school. The police in this universe were wearing blue uniforms and black ties. The police badge on their police caps was a yellow pentagram pattern. The police officer who took Xiongji away was a white Labrador. He didn't handcuff Xiongji, but tied Xiongji's hands with a rope and led him into the police car. Accompanied by the sound of the police siren, Xiongji got into the car silently. As for the students of the 4th grade Class 1, they all stood at the school gate and watched as the pervert left. Main mission progress changed before the police car left their line of sight. The system notification rang. Brother Ju and Xiao Tan opened the mission tab to take a look. Xiongji's current number of arrests had jumped to 1. See that? This counts as the first time. Fong Bujue said. This is only the 2nd chapter. Xiao Tan added. Therefore, Brother Ju concluded in a low voice, the difficulty of this scenario is not as easy as you think. Chapter 779. After Xiongji was arrested, Brother Ju and Xiao Tan returned to class with the rest of the students to continue their day at school. Nothing out of the ordinary happened during the 3rd class. Just as Fong Bujue was wondering how long it would take for Xiongji to be released, the next day, in the morning, an aside system voice suddenly rang in his ears. At the same time, the scenery before his eyes changed from the classroom to a street. Furthermore, his posture had changed from sitting to standing. This is... Fong Bujue reacted instantly. Teleportation. The next second, Wang Tanji's voice came from the side. It's a jump transfer. Fong Bujue turned to look at Xiao Tan. Have you encountered this kind of teleportation before? Yes, I have. Xiao Tan replied. Xiaoling and I played a scenario before. Whenever we finished a quest, we would change locations like this, and we would end up at the same place every time. The only difference was the timing. I see. This was the first time that Fong Bujue had encountered a scenario like this. Just as the two were talking, suddenly, Kia, another Japanese scream, came from afar. Looks like something has happened again, Xiao Tan said. Fong Bujue said darkly, based on the scream, doesn't sound like Meow Mei. Could this case be? 2 minutes later, the two arrived at the source of the scream. It was the backyard of a family. By then, many people had gathered in the backyard, including crocodiles, hippopotamuses, and giraffes. Mao Taro's son Taro. Of course, there was also an orange bear. There's a case here. He turned around and used his innocent bear face to greet the two players. Of course, with you around, how can there be no cases? Fong Bujue grumbled internally as he walked toward the man. Brother Ju. Xiao Tan whispered into Brother Ju's ear as he walked. If I'm not mistaken, The criminal of this case is Xiongji again, right? Of course, Feng Bujue said. In any case, we should observe from the side. After the previous case, we have some experience. This time, we have to stop him from digging his own grave. Ah, Tumei-chan, you're here as well. Before the two of them finished speaking, Xiongji said to a person, Rabbit, who was not far away, there's a case here. Are you feeling uncomfortable after being arrested? Feng Bujue immediately roared in his mind. Speaking of which, this guy stole the school's swimsuit yesterday, right? He was released after only 1 day. That's too polite of him. I knew it was a case when I heard the scream. At the same time, Tumei, who was walking from afar, replied to Xiongji. Then, she walked to the front of the crowd and said to the victim, What happened? Xiongmei-chan, this time, the victim was an elephant, but the anthropomorphic elephant was not much bigger than the rest of the people. Besides, Xiongmei was set to be the classmate of Tumei and Xiongji, which meant that she was an elementary school student. It was a peeping Tom. Tumei-chan, someone saw me when I was taking a shower, Xiongmei replied with some excitement. Almost at the moment when she finished speaking, Tumei suddenly turned around and cast a sharp look at Xiongji. Hey, WH, what are you doing? Xiongji replied nervously. It's not me. Why are you looking at me like that? Although I do have a criminal record. This time, it's not Xiongji. Xiongmei then said. When the criminal was running away, I heard him barking. Brother Ju, the criminal this time doesn't seem to be Xiongji. The naive Xiao Tan heard this and immediately turned to Brother Ju. Did you graduate from medical school with the IQ of an elephant? Feng Bujue was too lazy to explain to him and directly threw back a sarcastic remark. Woof woof. On the other side, Tumei placed her left hand on her waist and stroked her chin with her right hand. She looked into the distance thoughtfully and assumed a deductive posture. Normally speaking, the culprit should be a dog, but we can't rule out the possibility that the culprit saw Mei-chan's naked body and said, "Wonderful," which led to the sound of one. I don't think so. At this time, Xiongji stepped forward and said with a serious face, Think about it again. Mei-chan peeping is an unforgivable offense. And the criminal is really dirty. He's obviously F***ck. Just as Xiongji was about to say that the criminal was obviously a bear, but he pretended to bark like a dog to disrupt the investigation. Brother Ju roared and jumped up from the ground. A suave roundhouse kick landed on Xiongji's bare face and sent him flying. The crowd was shocked. Hey! Xiao Tan involuntarily screamed. Didn't you say we couldn't kill him earlier? It's fine with this kind of injury. He'll wake up after a short while. Feng Bujue turned back to tell him. After all, this scenario has a jump. As long as you don't kill him, it'll be fine. But, Xiao Tan said, and used his eyes to signal Brother Ju to look back, is it really okay for you to do this in public? Feng Bujue was startled when he heard that. He turned back to look, and everyone, animal, was looking at him with fear and caution. What are you doing? Mao Taro, Tumei asked. Why did you suddenly attack Xiongji-kun? Feng Bujue was trying to think of a way to get away with it. Tumei immediately said, no matter what, it's wrong to purposely injure someone. I'll call the police first. Wait, I can explain. Brother Ju tried to stop her, but Tumei ignored him completely and called the police station as fast as she could. Hello, is this the police station? There's been an incident. Please come to Xiongmei's backyard as soon as possible. She only took 5 seconds to finish the sentence and then hung up. F***ck me. She didn't even give the details of the incident and the specific address. Feng Bujue mumbled to himself. 2 seconds later, Bunny May turned around as if nothing had happened and assumed the reasoning pose again. Then, let's continue the reasoning about the peeping incident. What? Feng Bujue was startled. The jump that he expected did not happen. In fact, the plot continued. Several seconds later, Xiao Tan walked to his side and whispered, Brother Ju, could the appearance of the jump be related to the time? Brother Ju's expression shifted. I believe it's not only the time. He turned to look at the unconscious Xiongji on the ground. It's also related to the conclusion of the incident. Chapter 780. In other words, once the incident happens, it won't end until the conclusion is reached? Xiao Tan asked, following Brother Ju's train of thought. Feng Bujue replied in a low voice. According to the flow of the previous case, if Xiongji is arrested normally, the transition will happen about an hour after the end of the case. When Brother Ju said an hour, it should be an hour. Xiao Tan knew about his biological timing, so he didn't raise any questions. But if we disrupt the investigation and cover up the truth? Feng Bujue changed the topic and continued. Then it's hard to say. For example, in the current situation, although I've taken down Xiongji, the peeping incident hasn't reached a conclusion, so I'm not sure what will happen next. Vroom, 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 vroom. Before the two of them could finish their conversation, a burst of urgent sirens came from afar. The police are here so quickly? Xiao Tan was surprised. Maybe there's a patrol car nearby. Feng Bujue was quite calm. Brother Ju, the police are here to arrest you. Aren't you going to consider running away? Xiao Tan asked. It's okay, Feng Bujue replied. I want to test the consequences of being arrested. Don't tell me. Xiao Tan's expression suddenly changed. You want it? That's right. Feng Bujue continued righteously. If the consequences of being arrested aren't too bad, I can consider admitting to all the crimes that Xiongji committed before he does. 2 minutes later, a police car stopped outside the crime scene. The police officer who came out of the police car was the same white Labrador that arrested Xiongji last time. His name was Inyanosuk. Sir, there's an incident here. Tume saw the police officer as if she had seen an acquaintance. The cat over there used a roundhouse kick to attack the bear that fell on the ground. She paused for a moment. In addition, Xiang Mei-chan was peeped on, but the culprit has not been identified yet. Understood. Inyanosuk replied. Anyway, I'll first take the cat. Wait. Feng Bujue faced the police officer who was approaching him and said loudly, Sir, before you arrest me, there's something I have to say. What is it? Inyanosuk asked. I was the one who peeped on Xiang Mei's shower. Brother Ju was very determined to admit what Xiongji had done. In the process of peeping, I was also discovered by Xiang Mei-chan. In order to disrupt the search, I barked twice as I ran away, trying to make others think that the peeping Tom was a dog. As he spoke, he pointed at Xiongji, who had fainted on the ground. Just now, Xiongji-kun had seen through my trick and tried to say it out loud. In order to prevent him from saying it out loud, I knocked him out. Well, not only did he admit to a groundless crime, but he also used it as a basis to explain the reason for kicking him out. Xiao Tan said, Impressive. Oh, I see. Tu Mei showed an expression of sudden realization. Great, the incident has been successfully resolved. She waved her arm and snapped her fingers. No one knew how her furry hand made the sound. On the other hand, Inyanosuk was silent for a few seconds, then looked at Brother Ju and said, So, the criminal in both cases was you? Yes. Feng Bujue replied calmly. And when your crime was exposed, your first reaction was to frame a dog. Inyanosuk asked again with a straight face. Feng Bujue did not answer, as he was afraid that something bad would happen. Fine. After staring at Brother Ju for a few seconds, Inyanosuk took a few steps forward and took out a rope. If you have anything to say, come back to the station with me. Okay. Feng Bujue did not resist at all and allowed the other party to tie his hands. Several seconds later, Inyanosuk completed the binding. He led Brother Ju away. When he passed Wang Tanji, Feng Bujue purposely lowered his voice to whisper, I'll leave the rest to you. Understood, Xiao Tan replied with a serious expression. I won't let Xiongji get away with this. After getting the promise from his partner, Brother Ju walked toward the police car without hesitation. Under the setting sun, his back that was filled with humiliation appeared to have been through a lot. It was like he had turned himself in even though he was innocent. Due to AFK-like behavior, 30% life points and 100 skill points have been deducted. When he got into the police car, Feng Bujue heard this system announcement. Since Brother Ju entered Thriller Paradise, this was the first time that he had heard the punishment for AFK-like behavior. Even this time, he was baffled. The next day, during lunch break, before Feng Bujue could recover from the previous announcement, the sudden change happened again. Similar to last time, the scenery before his eyes changed. 1 second, he was sitting in the back seat of the police car, and the next second, he was sitting in the classroom of Animal Elementary School's 4th grade. Brother Ju, Xiao Tan's voice came from beside him. Are you okay? I'm not. Feng Bujue turned to answer. Voluntarily admitting Xiongji's crime will be considered AFK-like behavior, and life points and skill points will be deducted. Xiao Tan heard that and said with disappointment, I was happy to see the quick change. Phew. Feng Bujue gave a long sigh. It's fine. The action earlier was experimental in nature. It's going to learn from it. He scratched his chin and said, I think I understand the gist of this scenario now. To clear the scenario, we have to disrupt the investigation. But we can't use a brainless method like admitting to the crime first. At that moment, Xiao Tan scratched his chin and mimicked the famous detectives in the scenario. He assumed the posture of a detective and said, Based on the information that we know, once a case happens, there has to be a conclusion before we can move on. And there are only 2 conclusions. The first is that the real culprit, Xiongji Kuan, has been exposed. The second is that we have successfully disrupted the investigation and caused the case to be closed in the wrong way. He paused for half a second. In the first case, the main mission will be headed toward failure, but we will be given 1 hour of relatively free and safe time to adjust. In the second case, the scenario will move on to the next event. At that moment, Feng Bujue widened his pair of cat eyes and looked at Xiao Tan with a half smile. He used 6 modal particles in a row. Ho 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 ho. Chapter 781. What's wrong? Wang Tanji squinted at his brother Ju and asked. Not bad, Brother Ju said. I haven't seen you for a few days, and you've already learned how to reason? What are you talking about? Xiao Tan replied loudly, but the next second, he lowered his voice again. Well, although you're calling me a bird now, I really can't refute that, huh? Feng Bujue shrugged and smiled. Actually, I wanted to say, Xiao Ling seems to have taught you a lot. It's okay. Xiao Tan turned his head and smiled shyly, scratching his face with his wings. Feng Bujue looked at Xiao Tan with his dead fish eyes and said, The sour smell of love on your body has triggered the true energy in my body. I suggest you adjust your expression, or I'll have to use meow sex qigong. Meow. Just as they were talking, there was a sudden scream from the other end of the classroom. TSK again? Feng Bujue looked in the direction of the scream. He saw Meow Mei crying as she ran to the back row with a letter in her hand. Tumei-chan. Meow Mei ran to Tumei's desk and said, A bad stalker wrote me a letter. What did you say? Tumei looked at Meow Mei and asked with concern. Xiongji, who was sitting next to Meow Mei, also came over and said with concern, How could he do such a thing to my favorite Meow Mei? Unforgivable. Well, every time this guy says something like this with righteous indignation, I'll have a could it be that he really didn't do it this time? Feng Bujue looked at Xiongji and grumbled softly, but the merciless reality has dealt heavy blows to my beep again and again, causing me to be in so much pain. After all, this is the world of comedy. Xiao Tan also lowered his voice and said, Xiongji's behavior is the biggest problem. Before their voices trailed off, Bunny Mei had already taken the letter from Meow Mei's hands. She opened it before her eyes and read aloud. To Meow Mei, I'm going to sneak into your room tonight. Oh, Xiongji. After reading the letter, Tumei put it down quietly and took out her phone. Wait. Seeing this, Feng Bujue immediately roared and stepped forward to stop Tumei. What's wrong, Maotaro? Tumei asked. I want to confirm. Brother Ju said, Tumei-chan, are you going to call the police? Yeah, Tumei replied. Of course, I'm going to call the police. Calling the police so recklessly before we have a clear picture of the situation. Feng Bujue's expression turned serious. He looked directly into Bunny May's eyes and demanded, "Is that really a good idea?" "Oh." Tume looked suspicious. She raised her head and continued, "Isn't the truth of this case obvious enough?" "Humph." Fong Bujua was waiting for that sentence. He squeezed out a low chuckle from between his teeth and said, "Looks like the famous Detective Bunny Beauty is not that great after all." The next second, before May could say anything, Xiong-ji said in his usual comic book narration tone, What? How dare he say such provocative words to Tume-chan? This man, who is he? He's just a peeping Tom and a violent man. Tumei's tone was calm, as usual. His attitude is quite arrogant. Fong Bujue couldn't refute the way she addressed him. After all, he was the one who had confessed to the crime yesterday. Fortunately, Tume did not continue her human, cat, body attack. She continued, "Then tell me, what other problems do you have with this case?" "Humph." Fong Bujue sneered and raised a finger. "The first problem is the signature of this letter." "What's wrong with the signature? Isn't it Xiong-ji?" Tume didn't even look at Xiong-ji. She said nonchalantly, "Isn't it normal for him to do such perverted things?" Xiong-ji looked aggrieved and said, "No, I'm not a pervert. Although I occasionally feel inexplicably excited when I show my lower body in public, I'm not a pervert. Even if I were a pervert, I would be a gentleman with the title of a pervert. Hey, the case here hasn't been solved yet. Don't take the initiative to expose public nudity." Even Xiao Tan couldn't stand it anymore. "We're trying our best to help you get out of this situation." "Okay, let's not talk about things that have nothing to do with this case." Fong Buju interrupted them and said to Xiao Tan, "Son Taro, if Xiong-ji continues to talk nonsense, you'll slap his face." "Yes," Wang Tanji answered seriously and immediately cast a sharp look at Xiong-ji. Under the gaze of the falcon, Xiong-ji couldn't help but take a step back. He didn't say anything for the time being. "Listen carefully, Tume-chan." As Fong Bujua spoke, he naturally took the letter from Tumei's hand. As a detective, when dealing with a case, you must consider all the details. You can't be blinded by appearances. He raised the letter and smiled. "Let me ask you, is there a stalker in this world who is stupid enough to write his real name on a harassing letter?" Tumei said thoughtfully, "If there is, then it would be Xiong-ji. TSK, TSK, TSK. Fong Bujua wagged his finger, and he clicked his tongue wickedly. "Bunny May-chan, don't prioritize individual cases. At a moment like this, we should at least consider those hypotheses that have a higher probability of success." Pudgy, as Brother Ju spoke, he slammed the letter on the table, but because of the pause on his paws, it didn't make a sound. "Take the peeping case I committed yesterday as an example. Since I could imitate a dog barking to disrupt the search, then this time, the culprit, why couldn't he add Xiong-ji's name to the letter to frame me? So, it was you who did it." After listening to Brother Ju's words, May responded expressionlessly. She picked up her phone again and was ready to call the police. "Hey, I was just using myself as an example to analyze the problem for you. How did you come to this conclusion?" Fong Bujue quickly stopped her. "And you're too good at dialing with one hand. Do you like to call the police that much?" "Yes," May admitted without hesitation. "One of the reasons I became a detective is because I like to report cases. Let's figure out the case first before calling the police." Fong Bujue roared. "Okay." May closed her phone again. "Go on. Second question." Fong Bujue looked at the letter again. "Speaking of which, was this letter really sent by a stalker?" He poked the letter a few times with his paws. Something like, "I'm going to sneak in your room tonight," could also be written by a thief, right? Huh. Hearing this, even Xiao Tan was stunned. This kind of thing is very common. Fong Bujue spread his paws and said, "Like the strange thieves, chicken virtue, the cat-faced sisters, and so on. Don't everyone like to send a warning letter before they take action?" "Which dimension are the two groups of strange thieves you were talking about?" Xiao Tan's soul of disgust was obviously stirred up again. On the other hand, Bunny may seem to have accepted this setting. It does seem to make sense, but what's with the huff, huff, huff sneakily written in the trailer? It means that they are determined to get it, Feng Bujue replied without hesitation. I see. Tumei nodded and read. She actually believed it. At this moment, Wang Tangji had already fallen to the ground. Am I right? Feng Bujue laughed and said, compared to a sexual harassment letter written by Xiongji, a theft notice written by a strange thief pretending to be Xiongji disguised as a sexual harassment letter is obviously more logical, isn't it? This is the logic of being fed to a dog and then being eaten by the dog twice, right? Xiaotan complained fiercely mentally. Let's just abbreviate it to ergo iluo. Understand? Tumei looked at Brother Bujue and said, it seems that you are not just a simple voyeur and violent man. The famous detective of Beast Elementary School, Mao Taro, really lives up to his reputation. Ha! You flatter me. Feng Bujue smiled slightly and rubbed the hair on his head. Then, let's deal with it as a theft case. 2. Mei turned to look at Miao Mei. Miao Mei-chan, you have to cooperate with the police tonight to catch the strange thief. Then, she picked up her phone again and called the police. Miao Mei was confused. Even if you say that there is nothing in my room that would attract the attention of the strange thief, right? Miao Mei-chan. Feng Bujue's face was tense as he quickly moved to stand before Miao Mei. To protect the justice of the law and punish these despicable thieves, don't mind the details. Okay, Miao Mei answered blankly. Successfully disrupted the investigation of the stalker letter incident. Additional 200 skill points for special scenario. Increase Xiongji's hatred toward you by 2%. At that moment, 3 consecutive system announcements entered the ears of the 2 players. However, the content that they heard was different. Xiaotan's skill points reward was 50 points, but Xiongji's hatred toward him had only increased by 1%. 3 days later, in the afternoon, just as Feng Bujue was wondering what kind of setting was Xiongji's hatred toward him, the scene before his eyes changed. It was another sudden change, and Brother Bujue and Xiaotan appeared side by side on the school field. This is so King tiring. Feng Bujue took a deep breath. This is so much more tiring than normal reasoning. How come I feel like this is just nonsense? Xiaotan added. Oh. Feng Bujue glanced at him from the corner of his eyes and revealed a wicked smile. Okay then, I won't say anything for the next case. You'll be the one to talk. Chapter 782. Another scream interrupted their conversation. But this time, the situation was different because it was a man's scream. What's going on? Feng Bujue's expression immediately changed. Xiongji's crimes should all be against women or perverted behavior like exhibitionism. Why? Is there a man screaming? Could it be? Wang Tangji's expression also changed abruptly. He turned to Brother Ju and said, finally made a move on man. Let's hurry over and take a look. Brother Ju said, okay. Xiaotan nodded in response. In less than a minute, they jogged all the way to the place where the scream came from. It was an alley between the sporting goods warehouse and the school's outer wall. It looked like the kind of blind spot where delinquents gathered to smoke. At this time, both sides of the alley were surrounded by many teachers and students. It looked like something really happened. Brother Ju and Xiaotan squeezed the front of the crowd and saw. What the F***CK? Feng Bujue looked at the headless body on the ground and instinctively cursed. His words were not blocked by the system. That's... Xiaotan also stared at the body and muttered, Aiko the penguin. Although the body's head was gone, they could still recognize him based on his body. That's right, it's Aiko the penguin. Suddenly, Mei's voice came from the side. She directly followed Wang Tangji's words and said, the body shape and clothing of the deceased are the same as Aiko the penguin. Also, he's the only penguin in our animal school. You came really quickly. Feng Bujue looked at Mei from the corner of his eyes, as if he did not welcome her. As a detective, it's natural to rush to the crime scene to investigate. Mei replied, didn't you and Sun Taro come really quickly too? Oh, such a tense atmosphere. 2 seconds later, Xiongji's voice was heard. This guy came out of nowhere and looked at Brother Ju excitedly. This case came at the right time. We could see the reasoning duel between Tumei-chan and the Kitsune team. Feng Bujue, Wang Tanji, and Tumei all looked at Xiongji. This guy. At this moment, Brother Ju looked at Xiongji. Brother Ju, his hands is still stained with blood. And he just appeared at the crime scene. Xiaoting grumbled internally. This is not good. In his condition, even if I am willing to help him plead guilty, I might not succeed. Even though the two players were badly battered, Xiongji himself still acted as if he had nothing to do with the matter. Bunny Mei-chan's eyes have become sharp. When he met Bunny Mei's gaze, he continued to explain in his usual tone. That gaze means that Bunny Mei-chan is focused on the case, and her inspiration is working at high speed. Due to this characteristic, she was nicknamed Big Eyes. Tumei-chan is really something. She is close to the truth of the case. After this long speech, Xiongji looked at Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji. He looked nervous and said with a fake smile, It seems like the victory is already in Tumei-chan's hands. Mao Taro, Sun Taro. Xiaotan. Feng Bujue stared at him and said coldly, What? Wang Tanji also replied in a lifeless tone. We agreed just now. Brother Ju continued, You will take care of this case. Can I beat him up first? Xiaotan asked. No. Feng Bujue replied firmly. Do you want to be taken away by the police for intentional injury and then leave this mess to me? Don't even think about it. While they were talking in a low voice, Tumei had already taken out her phone to call the police. Hello, police station. There was a murder at Animal Elementary School. Tumei said to the other end of the phone. Yes, the murderer has been found. His name is Xiongji. Okay, please come as soon as possible. Then, she hung up the phone. Not long after, the police car arrived. The police officer who came to handle the case was still Inyanosuk. After looking at the body, Inyanosuk came to Xiongji and said, Is it you again? I. Xiongji was just about to speak. Wait, but a voice interrupted him. Suddenly, all the onlookers at the scene turned their heads and looked at the person who spoke. Who the murderer is? It's not certain yet. Wang Tanji forced an unfathomable expression and shouted loudly. Oh, well done. Feng Bujue, who was watching from the side, showed a gloating smile and thought, Intimidating others with your imposing manner is indeed a good strategy. What are you talking about? Sun Taro. Tumei walked to Xiaotan and pointed at Xiongji. Look, his hands are still stained with blood, and his boots left bloody footprints. So what? Xiaotan answered quickly, but he had not thought of what to say next. He could only think as he said, Maybe he just came to the crime scene a little earlier than the others, and when he found the body, he accidentally got his hands on it. You are quite good. Feng Bujue narrowed his eyes and thought, You can make up a story on the spot. I should be the first witness to arrive at the scene. Unexpectedly, another guy with a monkey-like face walked out at this time. When the shouting started, I was nearby. I ran over in less than 10 seconds. Oh, it's Arikichi. Tumei looked at the monkey and said, In that case, did you see anything at the time? At that time, Arikichi recalled as he said, I was washing my hands at the sink behind the sporting goods warehouse. When I heard the shouting, I quickly ran over. When I ran to the opposite alley, I happened to see a black shadow. He was holding a knife in his left hand and a black object in his right hand. He ran out of the alley from the other end. So I immediately chased after him, but when I came out of the alley, the shadow was already gone. He paused for a moment. After another 10 seconds, everyone was attracted by the shouting. That's right, Tumei said. The person you saw at the time was Xiongji, who had just finished the murder. She pointed at the bloody footprints on the ground. From the footprints, after he killed Aiko the penguin, he immediately ran out of the alley and turned into the sporting goods warehouse. She looked up at the front door of the warehouse. After he threw Aiko the penguin's head and the murder weapon inside, he walked out again and blended into the crowd. F*CK. The next second, Xiaotan shouted, F*CK. After he finished, he fell into silence again. He didn't think of a good line at all. so he decided to F***CK first. Feng Bujue was indeed Xiao Tan's best friend. He saw through the latter's behavior at glance. What's wrong? Suk and Tu Mei looked at Xiao Tan almost in unison. What do you think is the truth? After a few seconds of quick thinking, Xiao Tan had already thought of the next step to deal with it. Without pictures. Oh no. Without physical evidence. Why did you say beep? You're right. After Suk heard this, he agreed, but he immediately changed the topic. It's better to search the warehouse first. As he spoke, he had already led Xiongji for the sake of insurance. Suk had already tied Xiongji up to the sporting goods warehouse. Huh? Xiao Tan immediately panicked. He was about to be caught red-handed. Wait for me. He quickly chased after them. A minute later, police officer Suk, suspect Xiongji, witness Yuanji, and the three famous detectives Tu Mei, Mao Taro, and Sun Taro came to the sporting goods warehouse together. Oh, did you leave it here? Suk didn't spend much effort looking for it. Under the wall facing the warehouse door, he found a bloody head and a bloody knife. Look, it was Xiongji Kuan who did it. Tu Mei continued. From here to the floor opposite the wall, you can clearly see a bloody footprint going back and forth. This is obviously... I got it. Suddenly, Wang Tanji shouted and interrupted Tu Mei. The real murderer of this case is... He waved his wings and pointed at one of the 6 people present. Chapter 783. It's you, Yukichi. Wang Tanji pointed at the witness and shouted. Huh? Yukichi was stunned. WH? What? Xiongji was also shocked. It's you, Yukichi. Hey, you seem to have forgotten that you're the murderer. Feng Bujua looked at Xiongji and thought to himself. Only at a moment like this did he feel that. Xiongji's nonsensical behavior had some effect. What did I do? Yukichi, who was clearly innocent, was nervous about this inexplicable accusation. He looked like he had done something wrong. Oomph. Xiao Tan snorted and kept them in suspense. Actually, the truth is already in front of us. Oh, I want to hear it too. Tu Mei looked at Xiao Tan expectantly. Suk said expressionlessly, Please tell us in detail, Sun Taro classmate. 2 seconds later, Wang Tanji raised his wing and pointed. Look, everyone looked at his wing and saw a skylight above the wall of the warehouse. Aiko the penguin's head and the blood-stained knife appear below this skylight at the same time. This is the best evidence, Xiao Tan said. Oh, so that's how it is. At that moment, Feng Buju added, as if he had been enlightened. Brother Ju was also amazing. When he heard this, he had already guessed what Xiao Tan was going to say. What happened is... Xiao Tan began to narrate. In the afternoon, Yukichi casually made up a reason and called Aiko the penguin to the alley between the sporting goods warehouse and the outer wall of the school. When Aiko the penguin was unprepared, Yukichi suddenly pulled out the knife. Although Aiko the penguin screamed before he died, he still couldn't escape. In the end, Yukichi cut off his head. Hey, wait a minute. The one with the blood on his hand is obviously Xiongji. Yukichi interrupted excitedly. My hand is... Don't interrupt. Xiao Tan shouted domineeringly. I was just about to say that. He paused for a moment and continued. After you killed him, you knew that someone would hear the scream and rush over. So you had to immediately throw away the weapon. So you turned around and ran in the direction behind the sporting goods warehouse. However, what you didn't expect was that Xiongji Kuan was nearby at the time. He heard Aiko, the penguin, scream and immediately rushed over from the direction of the warehouse and appeared at the other end of the alley. Oh. As Feng Bujua listened, he praised in his heart. This bullsh asterisk T is so realistic that even I am about to be convinced. In your previous testimony, there are obvious flaws. Xiao Tan continued. You said that you saw a black shadow with a knife in his left hand and a black object in his right hand running out of the alley, and then you immediately chased after him. Humph! He snorted. Don't you think it's strange? When normal people see such a bloody murder scene, they would be scared out of their wits. But you didn't hesitate to chase after the murderer with the knife, even though you misjudged the iron? Does that make sense? Now that you mention it, Tume rubbed her chin and said, "It does make sense. I, G. Ung scratched his ears and cheeks. He was sweating profusely, but he didn't know how to explain. The real situation should be. Xiao Tan continued. Xiongji, who rushed to the scene, saw Aiko the penguin lying in a pool of blood. He was shocked and instinctively went forward to check. Then he accidentally stained his hands and shoes with blood. Several seconds later, out of the corner of his eye, he suddenly discovered that there was a figure holding a sharp knife and a head at the other end of the alley. He glared at Saratobi. "That's you, Saratobi. Is that so?" Even Xiongji himself seemed to believe it and answered in a daze. Everyone knows about Xiongji's personality. Even though he is a madman, he is not that courageous. In fact, he is a weakling. Xiao Tan continued. When he saw the killer nearby, he naturally turned and ran. He paused for half a second, and his eyes moved slightly. "And Ung, under such circumstances, the success rate of catching up with Xiongji and killing him was not high. So, you simply ignored him and turned around to leave the alley from the other end." He raised his hand again and pointed at the window. "Outside this window is the back of the warehouse. You threw Aiko the penguin's head and the murder weapon in through that window. Then, you wash your hands at the sink behind the warehouse to wash away the bloodstains on your hands." Hearing this, even Officer Inyanosuk nodded. "Oh, is this what the evidence means?" Xiao Tan nodded at the police officer, then looked at Ung and said, "After doing this, you passed through the alley and appeared at the other end of the sports warehouse. You met up with the crowd who heard the noise and pretended to be the first witness who rushed to the scene." He snorted coldly. "Humph, you are indeed very cautious. When you passed through the alley, you deliberately avoided the blood stains around the body. But don't you think that passing through such a narrow alley without stepping on a drop of blood in itself is an anomaly? Let me ask, in the face of such a bloody murder scene, who else would be so calm and meticulous other than the murderer?" "That's right." At this time, Feng Bujua suddenly picked up where Xiao Tan left off. He looked at Saratobi and said, "And the real first witness, Xiongji, after he was scared away by you, he ran away in a panic. As soon as he ran out of the alley, he turned into the sports warehouse." He raised his cat paw and pointed at Xiongji. He came in from the front door and kept running in. Unexpectedly, when he reached the wall, he saw a bloody penguin head and a knife fall from a high window. Seeing this scene, he must have been shocked again. Then, he turned around and ran out, meeting us outside. Brother Ju was indeed a good teammate. His timely assistance also explained the bloody footprints on the warehouse floor, making up for the last flaw in Xiao Tan's theory. Inyanosuk let go of Xiongji and walked to Ung. "Do you have anything else to say?" "Gg. This." Ung was sweating profusely as he sat on the ground. He was so wrong that he could not say a complete sentence. "Amazing, son Taro." Tume looked at Xiao Tan and said, "This reasoning duel, I lost. I didn't expect you to find a real murderer so easily." Ha! Xiao Tan wiped the sweat from his temples. You flatter me." 5 minutes later, Inyanosuk escorted Ung into the police car. Xiongji, Tume, Brother Ju, and Xiao Tan watched the police car slowly drive away, each with a meaningful expression. "Brother Ju, I was wrong." Wang Tanji turned his head and whispered to Feng Buju, "This is definitely more difficult than normal reasoning." He was very cultured, but he inadvertently cursed. "Probably half dead from exhaustion." Feng Buju answered, "More than half dead. His blood vessels are about to burst." Xiao Tan replied, "The next case." "No, all the cases after this will be handled by you," he said with a serious expression. "If this happens a few more times, even if my IQ can withstand it, my moral bottom line is about to be broken." "Isn't it just a monkey?" Feng Bujua said nonchalantly. "At most, he will be sent to the clinic. What else can he do?" "Yes, that's your attitude." Xiao Tan continued. It's not that your bottom line is very low, but you don't know what it is. You're nonchalant about the tragedy you created, and when necessary, you can even use someone else's ashes to pickle vegetable spirit. I can only look at it, but not reach it. Hearing this, Feng Bujue was silent for 2 seconds, then said, "Have you seen cartoons about cats and birds?" Xiaodan thought for a while. Cui Di and the Dumb Big Cat. If I were the screenwriter, it would be Mao Taro's Falcon Cooking Classroom, Feng Bujue said. Understood. Xiaodan swallowed and stopped talking. At the same time, the transfer had arrived. Chapter 784. 1 week later, during the self-study class. Following the announcement, Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji found themselves in a different environment. They were originally standing, but now they were sitting down, returning to their seats in the classroom. Both of them knew that after successfully stopping Xiongji from being arrested, there was not much time left for them to communicate. Therefore, after the transfer, they quickly exchanged information about the system announcement and came up with some analysis. Successfully disrupted the investigation into the death of Aiko the penguin. Extra 400 skill points for special scenario. Increase Xiongji's hatred toward you by 3%. These 3 announcements were the ones that Wang Tanji heard when Yuan Ji was arrested. At the same second, Feng Bujue heard a similar announcement. However, this time, Brother Ju only received 50 skill points, and Xiongji's hatred toward him only increased by 1%. Combining this with the previous system announcement, 2 patterns could be found. 1. The more effort one put into the investigation, the more thorough the investigation would be, and the more skill points one would gain. 2. The more effort one put into helping Xiongji get out of jail, the more hatred points one would gain from Xiongji. There haven't been any cases recently. This is so boring. Just as Brother Ju and Xiao Tan were about to start a discussion about Xiongji's hatred toward Xiongji, Tu Mei's voice suddenly came from behind them. Since Xiongji and Tu Mei were sitting 1 row behind the 2 players, their conversation could be heard clearly. "Why don't you pull your head off to take a look, Xiongji Kun?" When Tu Mei said the second half of the sentence, her tone was very even. She did not sound like she was joking. "No, I don't want to." Xiongji grumbled, his face covered in sweat. "What kind of case is this?" "Then go to a random corner of the school and turn into a white skeleton," Tu Mei said again. "No, you'll die," Xiongji replied with an aggrieved expression. "Then let's mummify him." Tu Mei did not seem to get the point in Xiongji's words at all. She continued, "Mummies should be fine, right? You just need to transform your upper body." "I've never heard of that kind of mummy," Xiongji roared. "Hey, everyone, please pay attention." At this moment, Mr. Panda appeared on the podium and said to the class in a loud voice, "It said that there are exhibitionists around the school recently. If anyone encounters them, please report to me immediately." "Do? Look, Tu Mei-chan," Xiongji said to Tu Mei, as if he had found a life-saving straw. "It's a shameless case of exhibitionists." "Exhibitionists?" Tu Mei turned her head calmly and looked at Xiongji. "Could it be you?" "No." Xiongji put on an innocent look and waved his hand to deny it. "Don't push the blame onto me. Don't be like this. It's very rude." At this moment, Brother Ju and Xiao Tan both shouted the same line in their hearts. "Rude my asterisk SS. It was you." "Yesterday's victim was Meow Mei," Mr. Panda said from the podium as he took a step to the right. He raised his hand and said, "Meow Mei, tell us about the situation." Unknowingly, Meow Mei was already standing at the edge of the podium, which was where the teacher was pointing at. After getting the teacher's permission, she said in a slightly soft voice, "Yesterday after school, Xiong Jijuan was naked and smiling evilly as he followed me all the way to my door." Before she finished speaking, Tu Mei's eyes became sharp. The focus of her eyes naturally shifted to Xiongji again. "TSK, it's me again." Xiongji's innocent face suddenly became perverted. "I can't help it." He even smiled. "Please." The words please contained too much information. Of course, even if he didn't say anything, Tu Mei would have called the police without hesitation. Wait. Faced with this development, Feng Bujue couldn't just sit back and watch. He suddenly turned his head and said to Tu Mei, "Are you going to call the police?" Tu Mei stopped dialing, looked up at Brother Ju, and said, "Call the police?" She paused for a moment. "Are you still going to say that Xiongji is innocent?" "That's right." Feng Bujue's expression was serious as he nodded. "No way." Even Xiao Tan felt that he was losing his confidence. He thought to himself, his perverted behavior has been exposed on the spot. How can he get away with it? "Then I'd like to hear it." Tu Mei put down her phone and asked curiously, "What kind of reasoning do you have?" "Teacher." At this time, Brother Ju suddenly stood up, waved his cat paw, and pointed at the teacher. "Can I say a few words to the class?" "Sure," Panda replied calmly. "Since this is a self-study class, you can come up and say it. Then I won't stand on ceremony." Feng Bujue smiled and walked up to the podium without any fear. He stood behind the podium and placed his hands on the table. Without saying a word, he used his peep eyes to scan the entire classroom of people. That aura, he was more like a teacher than a real teacher. "Everyone," Brother Ju spoke after a moment, "may I ask, have you ever had such an experience?" He continued with a burning gaze. "When you're fully focused on something, you will ignore all the irrelevant details." "Yes." In the classroom, only one falcon responded with the fastest and loudest voice. The rest of the students were silent. "Very good," Feng Bujue replied. "What I want to say is, yesterday, Xiongji Kun experienced such a situation." He raised his finger and pointed at Xiongji, just like Rodin, Archimedes, and Diogenes. When they're focused on something, even the threat of death will be ignored. So, he was so focused on following her that he forgot to put on his clothes? Tu Mei added. "Maotaro." Panda continued. "Even if it is as you said, Xiongji Kun forgot to put on his clothes. Stalking is perverted behavior." No. Feng Bujue shook his head and replied, "Teacher, you've all misunderstood Xiongji Kun. He wasn't stalking Miao Mei. He was protecting her." "What the?" Xiao Tan, who was sitting in the classroom, was shocked. This kind of twisted logic. Is it valid? "Just as you said, there have been exhibitionists around the school recently." On the podium, Brother Ju continued to speak. "This rumor has been known for a long time, so when the female students come home from school alone, they must be worried." As Feng Bujue spoke, he turned to look at Miao Mei. "Miao Mei said about this. I'm right? You're right." Miao Mei nodded. "Okay, let's look at Xiongji Kun." Feng Bujue pointed at Xiongji. "As we all know, he has a tendency to be an exhibitionist. Why do I feel like it's more than just a tendency?" Tu Mei whispered. "Don't interrupt." Tu Mei-chan, Feng Bujue used very fast words to stop the man from arguing. As someone who has the tendency of exhibitionism, Xiongji Jun should be able to understand the mentality of exhibitionism the best. Therefore, he felt that he should make use of his unique advantage to make some contributions to his fellow students. So, he's a psychopath with a sense of social responsibility. Xiaodan narrowed his eyes and squeezed these words out from between his teeth. He really felt uncomfortable if he didn't say this out loud. Driven by this sense of responsibility, Xiongji Kun decided. Feng Bujue spoke with an impassioned and righteous tone, to take the initiative to protect the female students walking home alone. He looked at Xiongji and said loudly, "Right? Xiongji Kun." "Huh?" Xiongji was stunned by the question. Yes, right? "The truth is out," Feng Bujue said. "This is the reason why Xiongji Kun followed Miao Mei home." The sneer on his face was probably just a simple smile. Because he wasn't wearing any clothes, it was misunderstood as an evil smile. As for why he was naked, that was because he was thinking about how to deal with the exhibitionist, and, without realizing it, he forgot to put on his clothes. That's impossible. Wang Tanji's bird face was flustered, and he thought to himself, even if this is a universe filled with absurdities and absurdities, it shouldn't be so easy to get away with something like that, right? Xiao Tan was not wrong, but Xiongji Kun, is that what happened? After hearing what Brother Bujua had to say, Miao Mei's expression shifted slightly. She turned to Xiongji and said, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Not bad, Xiongji-kun. I'm impressed. Tu Mei also turned around to compliment Xiongji. Several seconds later, there was applause in the classroom. It looked like the whole class had accepted this setting. Successfully disrupted the investigation of stalking by exhibitionist incident. Additional 200 skill points obtained from the special scenario. Xiongji's hatred toward you increased by 5%. The system announcement entered the ears of the two players. This time, the skill points that Feng Bujua gained were the same as the ones that he had gained from the stalker incident, but Xiongji's hatred toward him had greatly increased. On Xiao Tan's side, he did not gain any skill points or hatred points. He only heard the system announcement that the investigation had been disrupted. How is that even possible? That was Wang Tanji's first reaction when he heard the system announcement. How is that even possible? Even Feng Bujua thought that his own words were a bit too crappy, and he thought to himself, these people are no different from the people in South Park. Just as they thought that they were about to change the scene again, suddenly the system announcement that appeared for the first time said, due to successfully disrupting 3 investigations, side quest has been triggered. Chapter 785. There's a side mission. Both of them called out the game menu at the same time. Assist Tu Mei in solving the murder case without a corpse appeared on the mission panel. 2 days later, in the suburbs. 2 seconds later, the scene changed again. Blue sky, white clouds, green grass, and green mountains. The scenery around them had the style of a primary school student, and Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji, in the form of humanized cats and falcons respectively, blended into the picture. On a sunny afternoon, Tu Mei, Xiongji, Miao Mei, Mao Taro, and Sun Taro, these 5 friends, agreed to have a picnic in the suburbs. However, what awaited them was this side mission had a corresponding introduction. What's going on? Xiaotan turned to look at his brother Ju and asked, Sai, didn't the system say it very clearly? Feng Bujue sighed. Because we disrupted the investigation 3 times, a side mission was triggered. Could it be? After this, every time we help Xiongji get off the hook 3 times, there will be a side mission? Xiaotan asked. Who knows? Feng Bujue said, maybe the side mission will only come once, or maybe, starting from the 3rd time, every time we solve a case, a side mission will be triggered. Or maybe it's just as you said. Every time we disrupt the investigation, a side mission will be triggered. He shrugged. Anyway, we have to wait until the 2nd side mission is triggered before we can confirm the pattern. Xiaotan nodded. Speaking of which, Brother Ju, he seemed to have thought of something and said, since it's a side mission, according to the game settings, even if we can't complete it, it won't affect us passing the game, right? That's right. Feng Bujue replied. This is the basic principle, so it's okay for us to just be a bystander for this mission. He paused for half a second and said, of course, it's best if we can finish it. That way, we'll get more rewards after we pass the game. Xiaotan heard this and lowered his head. Based on the information we have now, we can speculate that the murderer in this mission is definitely not Xiongji. Oh, Feng Bujue revealed a look of praise and said with a smile, Why don't you tell me how you came to that conclusion? Xiaotan thought as he replied, since it's a mission, it's a mission. The 2 missions can't contradict each other. Since one of our main missions is to limit Xiongji's number of arrests to 10, the real culprit of helping Tu Mei solve the case of the murder without a corpse is definitely not Xiongji, or else it would violate this principle. Correct reasoning. Feng Bujue said the key is, you came to this conclusion very quickly. It seems like you've been training recently. Xiaotan smiled. You flatter me. Since you were young, I've been guiding you and teaching you, but you're still like a fool. Feng Bujue's next sentence changed the topic and started to mock him. Xiaoling, on the other hand, she only tortured you for a few months, and you've already learned how to answer first. He paused. It seems like your A-B asterisk starred. Hey, Why didn't the system block your words? Xiaotan narrowed his eyes. Maybe the system thinks I'm right, Feng Bujue replied. The system thinks I may be *starred too. Xiaotan didn't know why, but as he complained, he looked up at the sky. The two of them stood there and chatted for a few minutes. Then, they saw two familiar figures coming from afar. Mao Taro, Sun Taro. Miao Mei waved and greeted them from 10 meters away. Tu Mei was right beside her, walking side by side with her. Even though they were out on vacation, their clothes were completely the same as when they were in school. Even the school bags on their shoulders were the red school backpacks. Today, Miao Mei was still wearing a light green dress with a red bow on her right ear. Bunny Beauty was also wearing the same green shirt and pink skirt. The only thing that changed was the words on her clothes. The words on the front of Bunny Beauty's shirt changed frequently. Every time she appeared, there would be words such as beast, meat, soil, ankle, and so on that were full of unclear meanings. Sorry to keep you waiting, Tu Mei said to Brother Ju and Xiao Tan as they walked closer. Then, she turned her head and looked around. Xiong Ji Kuan isn't here yet? I don't see him, Feng Bujue replied. Then he said to Xiao Tan, Sun Taro, take a look with your eagle eye. What eagle's eye? Assassin's Creed. Isn't it just a normal sight for me? Even though he was grumbling, Xiaotan still stood on his tiptoes and looked around. He was just looking around, but he didn't expect to actually see him. I see him. He's about 1 kilometer away from here. Xiaotan looked in a direction and said, Oh, Tu Mei responded, then let's go. Don't we need to wait for Xiongji? Tu Mei-chan, Miao Mei asked. He's just a pervert. It's better if he doesn't come, Tu Mei replied. Then why did you ask where he is the moment you arrived? Feng Bujue asked. Okay, let's go. Tu Mei ignored Brother Ju's complaints as she held Miao Mei's hand and walked forward. 15 minutes later. Xiongji finally caught up with the four of them. This is too much. Everyone, they had clearly agreed to set off together. Luckily, we're on a plane and I saw you guys. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known that you guys were gone. Beep, beep, beep. Before Xiongji could finish, his phone rang. It was Tu Mei calling the police. In the silence, four different gazes looked at Xiongji. These 4 types of gazes were either sharp, awkward, pained, or like a dead fish. Hey, why are you calling the police again? Xiongji, who was half naked and wearing a pink bra, looked at Tu Mei and asked, What did I do? You miscalculated. Feng Bujue shook his head and said, I almost forgot. During the process of the side mission, the main mission will not stop. In other words, during the process of completing the murder without a corpse case, we still have to be on guard against Xiongji's perverted behavior? Xiao Tan asked. Sigh. Fine. Feng Bujue sighed. On the bright side, in this case, we still have a chance to stop Xiongji before he commits any crimes. Chapter 786. Facing Tu Mei's sharp eyes, Xiongji said incoherently, Could it be? No. This is... Where did you steal it from? You pervert. You perverted bear. Tu Mei looked at her phone in disgust and said to Xiongji from the corner of her eyes, Don't call the police. This is my own thing. Xiongji replied, Is there a law that says I can't wear my own bra outside? He frowned and put on a serious expression. Besides, although I'm a pervert, I'm not a pervert. You're actually comparing a pervert and a pervert. It's really unbelievable. Even if I'm a pervert, I'm just a pervert who's labeled as a pervert. Tu Mei broke out in a cold sweat. Her mouth twitched, and she said, So, isn't that the worst kind of scum? She curled her lips, but since you're wearing a bra that you bought yourself, it means that there's no victim, which means this is not an incident. Yeah. Xiongji replied. Feng Bujue and Wang Tanji also chimed in. That's right, as long as you bought it yourself, there's no problem. How could there be no problem? Tu Mei continued. Indeed, this isn't an incident, but as a man, walking around in public wearing a bra is undoubtedly immoral. I still want to call the police. Tu Mei-chan. Although what you said makes sense. Xiongji interrupted in a deep voice. But If you're called to the police just because you're wearing a bra that you bought yourself, don't you think that the world has already lost the so-called personal freedom? The public security regulations exist to restrict the freedom of perverts like you. May held her phone and smiled. Besides, I'd just like to call the police, can't I? I beg you please stop. Xiongji added. Every time you call the police over such trivial matters, it's like you can't show your underwear except in the bathroom and at home. Isn't that obvious? Xiaotan was shocked as he listened to this godlike conversation. He thought to himself, what is the world in your perverted brain like? Enough. Xiongji. At this time, Feng Bujue had already taken action. You King, shut up. He cursed and pulled off Xiongji's bra. Huh. Xiongji was startled when he saw this, but he only let out a cry and did not resist. All right. Brother Ju took the pink bra and turned to Mei and Miao Mei, saying, he has already taken off his bra. He pointed at Xiongji and said, it's summer now. It's normal for a boy to carry a backpack without clothes on his upper body. Since you said so, Ma Taro. Mei thought for a moment and put down her phone. Then, she looked at Xiongji and said, how about this? I won't call the police for the time being. Today, I'll observe your behavior and attitude during the outing. If you're honest and serious, I won't send you to the clinic. Clinic? Xiongji asked curiously. Isn't it the police station? 30 minutes later, the 5 of them headed north, and before they knew it, they had already walked a few kilometers. Brother Ju, Xiaotan, who had excellent eyesight, seemed to have noticed something. He quietly turned sideways and whispered to Feng Bujue at 11 o'clock about 2 kilometers away, there's a group of people gathered together. Roger that. Feng Bujue responded, then continued. That's most likely the crime scene. Don't tell anyone about it. Let's get closer and see what's going on. When he said this, his eyes were fixed on Xiongji, who was in front of them. It seemed that he was more worried that Xiongji would be caught red-handed for committing a crime. After walking for a while, they soon arrived at the vicinity of the group of figures. It's police officer Inyanosuk, Miao Mei said as she looked in the direction of the group of people. As Inyanosuk was wearing a police uniform, and his fur was white, even animals with poor eyesight could recognize him from afar. Oh, did something happen here? Xiongji said excitedly. Let's go and take a look, Mei said. So, before Brother Ju and Xiaotan said a word, everyone was already heading in that direction. At that moment, there were a total of 4 people and a horse standing on the grassland. The horse was a white horse with a saddle. The people were the following 4. The first one was the familiar police officer Inyanosuk. The second one was a bald monk wearing an orange cassock. The third one was a human-faced monkey spirit with a red scarf around his neck and a golden headband. The fourth one was a hippopotamus spirit with green skin and wearing a blue ancient costume. When he got close, Feng Bujue got a good look at the faces of these people. At that moment, his balls hurt even more. So it's you guys. 2 seconds later, Brother Ju lowered his head and held his forehead. He thought to himself, by the way, you guys are from the same universe as Xiongji. So, the sun and the universe are interconnected. Before Feng Bujue could catch up with the terrible situation, Mei had already stepped forward to talk to him. Police officer Inyanosuk, what happened here? Oh, it's Mei-chan. Inyanosuk turned around and looked at the 5 children. Something happened here. See, Mei-chan, it's really something. Xiongji said. What kind of thing is it? Police officer Inyanosuk. At this time, Feng Bujue also walked forward and put on a serious expression. He asked, if it's convenient, tell us. Perhaps we can be of help. Oh, Xiongji cheered. We can see the long-awaited reasoning duel between famous detectives again. If the murderer isn't you, it should be more like a duel. Xiaotan whispered. On the other side, Inyanosuk thought for a few seconds and looked at Mei and Brother Ju. This morning, the station received an anonymous call. The informant said that he witnessed a murder. The crime scene was about 10 kilometers away from here by a stream. He paused. According to the informant's description, he saw a human, A monkey and a kappa attack a pig together. Then, they fled west with a white horse. Then, he glanced at the three people behind him. So, I followed them on foot and happened to meet these three people. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.